International Mandela Effect Conference 2020 Day 5. We are so very excited to have every last one of you here with us. We appreciate you guys so much for hanging with us all week. It's been incredible, let me tell you. Before we get started, we got a couple things we need to go over, a couple legalities, really simple stuff. If I can go ahead and have my tech team throw the disclaimer onto the screen, please. Thank you. Tech team, you guys are amazing. Ladies and gentlemen, the content you are about to watch is meant for thought and consideration only. Please be respectful of each other and opinions shared. This is a safe space to express thoughts, ideas, and information. The views and opinions expressed by the individuals in the following program do not necessarily reflect those of the speakers or the IMEC organization or affiliates. In other words, just because someone is affiliated with any kind of organization outside of ours gives us no affiliation with them whatsoever. We are not government affiliated. We are not affiliated with any Life Matter movements or any other organizations of the type. We are a 501c. We are a non for profit organization for the Mandela Effect community. So anything you hear is only that of the speaker that has said it. We have a couple rules we must go over. Please be respectful. Disagreements are quite okay. I want conversation. That's what this whole thing's about. But disrespect is not. Please put any questions that you may think of into the chat. We have a questions contest going, guys. We're giving away 2 books a day, every day. We've given away, 8 so far? And we've got 4 more to give away for the rest of this week, guys. So you bet we're going to have a great time. Go ahead and put those questions in the chat. And when you put a question in chat, you are automatically entered to win. Even if it's not called out on air, your question is still in consideration for winning. Next, please, no cussing, no foul discussion. This is a family-oriented event. Trolls will be banned. This is without question. If you're causing trouble in the chat, you will be disappeared. Please do not spam your questions into the chat. We understand you're worried your question will not be seen. We have a multitude of moderators who are watching. If they're not able to acknowledge it right away, I assure you one of us has grabbed the question. And last but not least, let's try to stay on topic as much as possible. We are going to move through a variety of topics today, but let's try to keep everything Mandela Effect. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is all the rules except one. Have fun. Have a good time. That is the number one rule of all of it. Have fun, because that's why we do it. We want to get information out and have fun doing it. And who's we? Ladies and gentlemen, we could not do this without our International Mandela Effect Conference board members. That would be our president, Cynthia Sue Larson, our vice president, Christopher Anatra, our secretary, Mr. Shane Robinson, and myself, the treasurer, Jerry the Dark Wolf Hicks, as well as Lauren Cannell Pavelka and our consultant to the board, Miss Kimberly Lynn Hanson. Our video crew that has brought you this amazingly seamless performance thus far is Frontline Video Productions. And John and Heather and everybody over there do such an incredible job. Our sincere thanks to everything they do for us over there, guys. They're the ones that bring this to you all week, and we couldn't done it without them. So thank you so very much, Frontline Productions, as well as our webmaster, Fitz. You guys have hit that site really, really hard this week, and we appreciate it so sincerely. Fitz has done a great job of keeping that up, keeping it updated, and just doing everything he can to make sure that you guys have the information available. So thank you so very much, Fitz. It is sincerely appreciated. And there's a lot of behind the scenes people that don't get enough shout outs, so we're glad to do that. If you have won a book so far, please contact us at team@imec.world. That is TEAM at imec.world to receive your prize if you have not already. We would also like to thank our amazing sponsors, Conscious Life News, Dream Vision 7 Radio Network, Higher Journeys with Alexis Brooks, Kingdom of Nye Radio Show, and the Rippin' Common Sense Radio Network, which I actually am a bit of a part of. But we ended up skipping our show last night, a little bit tired. We'll explain why here in just a minute. We also want to thank our super chat donators who have really helped us out this year. We sincerely appreciate the donations, like the ones from Miss Earth Daughter or Feminem, Melinda Iverson coming in there with some super chats. Propagate This Light, Dark Slayer 1 after that onion ring recipe still. Victoria Macris, Esteban Herdez, Eric Mill, Nicola Simpson, Utsuko Ushida, Jacqueline Klein, Moneybag 73, JoJo's, Nadia S, Andy Schwang. Please let me know if I'm saying that word right or that name right. And Medium That Rocks. We appreciate the super donations so very much, guys. Keep them coming in. We really appreciate it. As you guys know, I did explain the questions contest. There's also one other contest going on for money prizes. That's right. If you go over to thetastream.net, that is THETASTREAM.net. Go on over there. There's some contests you might be interested in. There's an intuition training. There's a control the random number generator. There's a lot of neat stuff over there. So you guys definitely want to check that out. I know I like winning money. Where else can you go to a free anything and get money given to you? It just doesn't happen, right? Well, it does around here. We just love you guys so much that we love to do things for you like that. Guys, coming up today, we've got a amazing program. First, the reason that I was up so late last night and did not get the amount of rest that I probably should have was our first speaker who put on a YouTube show last night that was just as amazing as every show she puts on. Miss Eva Nye is coming up first, along with her Q&A, followed by Mr. Sean Bond and his Q&A. Then we're going to take a small break. We'll come back and have a fun little art break, it looks like, according to the schedule, and then we will finalize the day with the panel discussion for day 5. So that is how we are going to go along the rest of the day today. That is today's schedule. I hope everyone sticks around for these very intriguing and mind-opening talks that we are about to hear today, like the one from our next presenter and our first presenter of day 5 of IMEC week. Ladies and I also hope you guys enjoyed the ladies' night yesterday. I know I enjoyed that chat so much. Maybe we can get more of that for the next time we do this. All right. Maybe we can do a guys and girls chat. How would you guys like that? All guys then all girls, or all girls then all guys? We'll see how we can work that out. Ladies and gentlemen, coming to the stage next is Eva Nye. She's been studying the Mandela effect for almost 4 years and is the host of the popular YouTube channel Once Upon a Timeline. And it is, if you guys have not checked this channel out yet, like I said, I spent hours in there last night and lost a lot of sleep, so that tells you how good it is. In addition, she is a co-moderator for a very large Mandela effect social media board named Retcon. And in her off hours, she's also a successful entrepreneur and business leader. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Eva Nye.
Hi, my name is Eva, and I am best known for my Mandela Effect YouTube channel known as Once Upon a Timeline. I am also co-moderator of a Mandela Effect talk group called Retconned that exists on Reddit. Today I'm going to talk about some of the more exciting Mandela Effect phenomena and make some predictions about what those may mean for our future. So let's get started. So first I'm going to start off with some of the atmospheric and light phenomena. Now there's been many changes here, so I'm just going to go over a few of the more interesting ones. This one's called light pillars, and it is supposedly due to ice crystals being aligned by the electromagnetic fields and reflecting light in certain ways. So in this case, it's supposed to be reflecting light that is coming from the ground here. I just saw this one a few years ago, and the pictures of it have gotten brighter and brighter, so it's basically strengthening. I do expect that we'll see more and more light phenomena with rainbows and colors. That's definitely seems to be a very strong trend that we've been heading towards. Here's another example, many new kinds of rainbow. This one's called horizontal rainbow, and this one's fairly new. It's like a huge rainbow that basically covers the entire horizon. We've seen other things like upside down rainbows, different colors rainbows, fog rainbows. The timeline definitely likes its colors. All right, so now there's been some interesting changes in fire and other kinds of physics things. This one's a little older in that I first heard of the fire whorls maybe like 15 years ago, so it's been very slow growing. And I would just talk about a little strange circular rotational vortices that you might see in a fire and how strange it was. But in recent years, it has really kicked up a notch or two. So now there's even the smaller fires can get these ridiculous fire tornadoes. Now, when this first came out, it was just described as only happening in very strong, powerful, unusually large fires like firestorms in Australia or California. But the last year, I've seen it even in just smaller, little quiet-looking fires, little grass fires. So, yeah, fire tornadoes definitely a new thing. Another example of the rainbow phenomena. I see this particular one quite a bit in real life, unlike some of the other ones where I'm just looking at it on the internet. But I look up quite regularly and I see something like this coming from the moon and the clouds above. And that started several years ago. And it's very common where I'm at. So I definitely didn't have it most of my life, just the last few years. So again, more colorful rainbow type things. I think we're going to just keep seeing more and more of those. Here's another example. This one is sun dogs. There's other words for it. Now, when it first came out, it was just like a ring around the sun. Again, it's supposed to be caused by ice crystals that have been aligned via electromagnetic fields. And it was just a circle, and I wondered why they called it a sun dog, and I'm actually still not sure why it's going to have that nickname or has that nickname. One would imagine that it'll make sense eventually. So first it was the ring, and then we started to see images of like extra little sun reflections here. So it looked like there was 3 suns, and then the one on the top, and then more and more and more of these. So I don't know how far this is going to go, but it's getting very geometric. So also, it didn't used to have all the rainbow pattern on it. It used to be just white, but now you're starting to see the rainbows again. So again, more and more rainbows, definitely a very strong pattern. All right, so now I've also seen a lot of changes in the lightning. We have colored lightning. The lightning is bigger, it lasts longer. It doesn't just strike, it kind of pulses. There's different thicknesses in the same strike. And this is another kind of an older Mandela effect where we now have a location where it's lightning strikes almost continuously every day, and it's called Catatumbo. And a very striking area. Never had that in my old timeline. All right, so now to some of there's been many changes in the way snow and frost and ice operate. This is just one example. This is a frost flower. So basically frost on the ground grows into these shapes under certain conditions, and they look like flowers. So very beautiful looking. So this is just ice supposedly created by nature. I have not seen these. I don't live in a very icy area, but I haven't seen them in real life, but maybe some of you have. Here is something that you might actually see in your own freezer now. So supposedly, under the right conditions, if you make ice cubes, they will form these spikes. I've never seen that before. I don't do a lot of ice cubes either, so can't really chime in on that one. That one showed up a few years ago also. Okay, so I talked earlier about Arctica. Some of us remember Arctica as being a continent in the north. It was 7 continents for me. It was North America, South America, Arctica and Antarctica, Africa, and Eurasia and Australia. Those were the 7 countries. So now, or continents. So now what we have is that Europe and Asia are separate continents. So it's kind of a weird choice, but it makes it so that there's still 7 continents, since Arctica is now gone and is just floating ice and has no land, and submarines can go underneath it. And it used to have high cliffs of ice too. Now it's just flat. It's very weird for me to look at. Okay, so how did it disappear? Well, I wasn't watching at the time, but now I've been watching Greenland, and I'm starting to see how it might work. So supposedly this is Greenland here if there's no ice. And I'd heard a little bit of rumors a few years ago. Oh, we think there's a big canyon under Greenland. Well, this is more than a big canyon. This is like, 25% of Greenland being underwater. So supposedly currently, if there's no ice, then Greenland's whole center is underwater. So I'm wondering if something like that is what happened with Arctica, is that under the ice, the land just kind of got eaten away, disappeared. And now we're seeing it with Greenland. And it's not just with Greenland. So this is Antarctica, supposedly what it looks like without ice. So large areas of Antarctica are actually underwater, and they are not, it's not a solid chunk of land. It's about half gone, I would say. So they're calling Antarctica, of all things, they're calling it an archipelago with lots of islands, and they're calling it a desert, if you can believe that. They're saying that it's a desert because there is very little snow or precipitation fall whatsoever. Now, that's not how I remember it. What I remember for both the North and South Pole is that the glaciers were fed by snowfall. Heavy snowfall would fall over the glaciers and get packed down by gravity and more snow on the top until it got crushed into ice, and that would be what fed the glaciers. So the glaciers might move slowly downhill into the ocean, but they would be fed on top by new snowfall. But that storyline is apparently quite gone, because in this timeline, there's very little snowfall there. In fact, I'm not even sure what keeps the glaciers there if they're not getting fed from the top. So Antarctica, there's a lot going on in Antarctica other than the conspiracy theories. It's also getting quite green. First, there was some dirt areas, and that was in the storyline with the desert hypothesis or statements that they make. Just the last few weeks, I'm seeing that they're now saying that there's grasslands and these moss lands. So that's surprising to me, because it's supposed to be a desert, and yet there's enough moisture to feed these mosses. But mosses are a lot tougher in the current timeline. Another change for me is that mosses used to die when it got dry, but now they just go into suspended hibernation and wait for the rains to come back, and then they spring back to life. So anyway, so many changes. I could just go on and on, but we will move on to the next thing here. Okay, so now let's move on to some of the weird changes that I'm seeing with not the entire land masses, but just specific smaller areas. And this is a huge one for me. It's the blue lava, believe it or not. There's like lava that comes out blue, supposedly from sulfur that's burning off of the lava. So theoretically or supposedly the lava is still red underneath, but the sulfur burning makes it look bright blue. So this one is one of the first Mandela effects I saw 4 years ago. And at the time that I learned of it, people said it can't be a Mandela effect because it's new. And the storyline at that time was that it was only known about for 2 years. It had just started spewing this blue lava 2 years earlier, and it wasn't well known. And the volcano is called Kawa Eden. So it was only 2 years old. So everybody's like, oh, you're just learning about it because it's new. So this is one pattern that I see very strongly with Mandela effects, is that something starts off as new and can't be a Mandela effect. And then if you watch it, it actually moves backwards in time. So this is an example now. This has been known about for a long time, way longer than 6 years ago. There's another image of it. So it goes back now. Last I checked, it had gone back to about 1920. But this time, just today, while I was checking, I can't even find the discovery date. Apparently, it's just always been known about since the volcano has been known about. So there's no discovery date. So it's definitely not 6 years ago. So now it is a Mandela because it is no longer new. It was a 2-year-old discovery 4 years ago, but now it's always been known. So the Mandela effect got Mandela'd. This is another one that changed for me about 4 years ago. This was a very small crater about the size of several people across, maybe 15 feet. And the story was that some miners were digging there and smelled gas. And so they wanted to burn off the gas, so they lit it on fire, and it never stopped burning. So the story now is that geologists lit this on fire in order to control the methane emissions. But before, the miners had hoped to mine, but now this has just always been a very large crater. And it actually was lit on fire in 1971, which is a lot further back than when I first learned of this. It's also a lot larger. You can see that these are people here. So it's grown about 10 times larger than when I first discovered this. It was more like a big ditch, like the size of a house maybe at the time. So I don't know if this one will keep growing, but it's called the Gates of Hell. So hopefully it doesn't. Let's just say. All right. This is another one that I first heard about 4 years ago, and it's Pink Lakes. I think this one's in Australia. At the time that I discovered it, there was only one of them, but there's quite a few supposedly scattered through the world now. It's supposed to be like colored algae that makes it pink. In my old timeline, we just didn't have all this colored algae that grew in the water. So water was just either dirty or muddy or clear, and that was about it. But in this timeline, we have all these beautiful colors that can come from the algae. This is another example of one, again, another Mandela. So what I'm kind of seeing very commonly is these things start out small, like little Mandela seeds, and they grow. So when you see something that's really cool but small, keep an eye on it because it gets larger and larger. This is an example of that. This is Grand Prismatic Springs in Yellowstone. When I first heard of these, it was just like a mud puddle that had orange algae that fed off the gases and the weird minerals here. And it just kept growing and growing. And then it got the blue-green in the middle. It was at first, it was only the orange and yellow. Now you can see the size of it. It's like that, the Gates of Hell, it's gotten huge. These are people here, and this is a little walkway. So it's about, from puddle size to this size, in the last maybe 9 years. So I learned of this maybe just a few years before I learned of the Mandela effect. And I immediately suspected it of being a Mandela because I had not remembered the orange mud going back, way back. So I've been watching it, and yes, it's growing and growing. So another sneaky thing that the Mandela likes to do, start small and then grow. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about animals. This is kind of a controversial topic because people say, well, maybe you just didn't know about these. And I can feel sympathetic to that, but the thing is that about 4 years ago, I started watching for all the weird animals I could find, and the ones that I found, I started watching them. And what I've seen is that after I discovered them, they continue to change. So this gelada baboon is an example of one. Did not originally have this cutout, this triangle cutout of red skin on, and its face has gotten a lot more expressive. The hair's gotten bigger since I first learned of it. It was weird looking before, but not nearly as weird as it is now. So this is one of the earlier ones that I noticed 4 years ago. Okay, so another pattern I'm seeing a great deal with the animals is species that used to just be one animal are splitting into multiple species. And the rhinos are a really good example, because before there was just one rhino for me that had one horn on the nose, just the one. And then somebody else noticed that they started having two horns. I started watching them, and eventually now they've split into these 5 species that are quite different. Some have one horn, some have two. Well, I think one of these has one horn in here. Let's see if I can find it on the next one. This guy is the only one now that has one horn. All the rest have 2 horns. So these probably will continue to split. I've noticed that they'll split into 2 or 3, then there's 5 or 6. There'll be 2 or 3 with like a couple subspecies, and then the subspecies will become species, all within the course of like 6 months to a year. Here's another example of one that's split. There used to just be one kind of giraffe. The pattern was a lot like this one here. Maybe a combo of that one plus that one was the old patterns. And I started to see that there became more and more variation in the spot patterns. And eventually I figured out that they had split into at least 5 species. That kind of varies according to who's counting, but I definitely saw these changes. So you start to see more variation in an animal. Look and see if the species have split into multiple species. There's a very good example here. Okay, so there's another pattern that I'm seeing very strongly with these creatures is a very strong tendency towards either glow-in-the-dark bioluminescence or iridescence. And so this is an example of, these are actually worms. You think this might be underwater, but it's not. These are caves, terrestrial caves above water. And they're worms, slimy, gross worms that dangle down from the ceiling of these caves, and they are bioluminescent. So they actually light the caves. Just crazy. I saw these a few years ago, but there were just a few little dangles and you could barely see them. But it looks like it's heading towards that these will light the whole cave, or they're working on it. Here's another example of a whole bunch of them and a couple people in the cave. I think there's more than one of these caves now, too. So, yeah, it definitely would be fun to visit these. There's more glow in the dark. These are actual mushrooms. They're natural. They're not bioengineered. And they glow in the dark, bioluminescence. So many things have bioluminescence. When I first heard of those, it was just deep sea creatures, and that, well, we never knew about. The story was they had never gone down that deep, and they were discovering all these bioluminescent creatures. But now they're saying that like approximately 70% of the ocean fish, including the ones near the surface, are bioluminescent. So that's a whole different storyline. It used to just be the deep sea creatures. And then it became some mushrooms, there's beetles, a lot of different things now are bioluminescent. Here's another example. These are bioluminescent bacteria that when jostled will make bright light. And so now there's beaches all over the world that have these beautiful bright lights during some or all seasons. And this is a huge one for me because maybe 10 or 15 years ago, they advertised locally in my area of California that for the first ever time we were going to have this phenomenon. It was extremely rare. And we went and saw it, and it was just, it was a lot like this. It was amazing. And I thought it would be a once in a lifetime experience, because it had never come to our location ever. And then last time I checked, lo and behold, we are supposedly have these every year now. So they're kind of erratic in intensity, but every year in the summer season for these now, and we always have. So that kind of blew my mind. Most of the locals don't even know that we always have this. Even people that were born here don't know. They're shocked. So very interesting. Another beautiful light show, Mandela. I think we're just going to see more of these beautiful light shows as time goes on. Okay, so not everything is fun and games in the Mandela effect universe. And another change that I'm seeing a great deal of is herbivores have become like omnivores, or they have a taste for meat. And so all the herbivores I'm seeing, they're now saying that they'll eat meat. Now, the old storyline was that they didn't like it. They wouldn't touch it. Their stomachs weren't designed, their digestion couldn't tolerate meat because they were designed to be herbivores. But the last 2 years, there's just been a huge influx of just every animal you can imagine that was an herbivore has a taste for meat. So here we have giraffe chomping this live bird. And giraffes are now known to eat carcasses and chew on the bones. The storyline is it's for minerals. But I mean, they're eating live animals too. Rabbits are cannibals, and they eat other meat. And there's cannibal horses. If horses are hungry, they can eat fish, or they can eat roadkill or other dead horses. Here's a cow that just caught and ate this rabbit. So horses also, they can catch birds, rabbits, rodents. They'll eat them if they see even if they're not hungry specifically, and they have plenty of greens. If they see a rodent now, they will bite it. And there's a lot of video on these too. A lot smarter. Okay, so now let's just talk about the absurdity of some of the Mandela effects. You ever feel like the Mandela is trolling you? You ever feel like some of these are just too ridiculous? It's like a giant joke. So here's an example. Several years ago, I've heard about these purple squirrels that were found in several locations. They actually had purple fur. There's actually some video of them. And then they said, oh, well, maybe they got into purple paint. But, you know, the fur is not matted. This is not what would happen if you tried to paint fur purple. So I'm just kind of waiting to see what happens with the storyline, because it's obviously not paint. But so purple squirrel is kind of a joke for like the impossible candidate. If you are looking for an employee, they would say the purple squirrel is like when you've made the requirements so ridiculous that no candidate will ever fulfill your desires. That would be the purple squirrel. It's an impossible wish, but that's why this is such a troll, because it's impossible. And yet we found the purple squirrel. In fact, several of them have been found. Another example, kind of absurd, ridiculous things. Butterflies were always considered such a beautiful, pristine creature in the past for me, because they only ate nectar. So they were beautiful, and they only ate sugar nectar, and that was it. But in the current timeline, they are attracted to dog poop, carrion, blood, and all kinds of unsavory things. So that is probably not one of my favorite Mandela effects, because it's sort of gross. Some of the new animals do, unfortunately, trend in that direction. Okay, more absurdity. I find this one a particularly hard trolling of the reality, because Easter Island statues were always famous for being heads, just these giant heads without bodies, and they were bald. So you had these giant bald heads, and everybody knew about it. And slowly they grew these bodies, and for a while they said, "Oh, well, the bodies were buried, so nobody knew about them." An archaeologist would not notice that there were bodies under the head. It was a kind of a ridiculous excuse. So then they had bodies, and then they got these weird hat things, and then the hat things got bigger and bigger, and then they started saying the hats were actually like tied up hair, like hair knots. So when you think about it, what has happened now is over time, the last 5 or 6 years, these giant bald heads have turned into heads with hair on them, giant, tons of hair and bodies. So that's why I consider this kind of a giant trolling. It looks like the sun is kind of getting me, so I'm going to try to turn a little bit here to get out of the sun. I don't think it's working though. Might be no escape from the sun. All right, so this one recently found by someone on Retconned subreddit. Apparently now pelicans, when they need to stretch, find it pleasurable or cooling or relaxing to push their spine out of their lower mouth. So that's their spine. That's his spine right there. And I guess they like it. It's absolutely ridiculous. I can't imagine that nobody would know about this. But, you know, looking online, there are very few photos of this. You would think that this supposedly commonly occurring event everybody should be taking pictures of this ridiculousness. So there's the bottom beak and the top beak. And then this is, I guess, neck throat material, and there's the spine. It's gross and ridiculous. So apparently your dear friend the shoebill, which is a very popularly considered a Mandela effect also. They're ridiculous. They've got these nictitating membranes that cover their eyes, so their eyes can look really creepy. They also now apparently do this spine pushing maneuver, so you can see them doing that. And there's another pelican doing it, even more so than the other one. You can kind of get more of an idea. There's only a few images of the shoebill doing it. That's why I wasn't able to get a very high quality photo. But I think that we will see more in the coming months. This is a very new discovery. And I've been looking at the shoebills, and I've never seen them do this before. So keep an eye on this. I think we're going to see more and more of this. Right now, I can only find these two birds that do it, and that's it. But we do also have that weird thing where sharks will actually barf out their stomachs and flap them around in the water to clean them. And then it was after the sharks were, the frogs will now do that also. So there seems to be this weird inside-outside pattern that I'm kind of seeing. That's pretty gross. You definitely could not throw your stomach out and flap it around in the water before, just to clean it out. So yeah, the internal organs apparently are a lot more hardy here than they were in some past timelines. Another weird animal, Mary River turtle. This thing is ridiculous. So it's got this punk rock hair, which is actually algae that grows on its head. So in my past, you couldn't really have algae growing on your skin and still be alive. But in this timeline, I guess you can. And this turtle also breathes from his hindquarters. He's absolutely able to respirate and take air in and out from the nether regions. There's also a few other animals that can do that now. So just ridiculous again. It's like total trolling of anything you ever thought was possible pretty much can happen now, no matter how ridiculous it sounds. This timeline can make it so. So maybe it's a comment on our limits to, and maybe it's a comment on how much people can assume they didn't notice, no matter how ridiculous it may sound. Somehow they just forgot, apparently. Okay, so another what I consider kind of a timeline trolling is now you have these animals that can be like female on one half and male on the other, like split down the middle. I kind of feel like a little kid invented this, but so this they call them gynandromorphs. They're half male and half female, split down the middle. So they're not hermaphrodites. They're actually split down the middle. So this is a cardinal. And you can tell it's half and half because the males and the females have different coloration. And so you can see the male color is the bright and the female is the not so bright. And there's a lot of gynandromorphs now in this timeline. This one is a little bit different than the gynandromorph. This is a chimera, which is even more weird in my opinion. And it's basically they're saying that this cat is half one cat and half another cat. And there were like two embryos that fused in the womb and became like half and half. So it's like half its sister. It's split right down the middle. So these are totally different genetics. Supposedly humans can also be chimera. Although I've yet to see one that has a straight division like that. I suspect it will come, because if it's come in the animals, there's no reason why it won't come in humans. And it does seem like things start in the animal kingdom, used to, and then they come into the human kingdom. Now, granted, a lot of these I've never seen in real life. I've seen some of the Mandelas in real life, but not these. So, I mean, I guess you could say that it's all just online. But anyway, keep your eyes open. There's another one. This is a half and half gynandromorph lobster. So it's like half male, half female, supposedly. I've heard different storylines for these half and halves. So maybe they're chimeras. Some people say they're gynandromorphs. The story keeps changing on those. So this is a little bit in a gray area, but they're half and half colorations. Okay, so this one, all right. I've talked before about fantasy making it into reality, and this is a classic example. So in the movie Frozen, which is a cartoon, there's these horses that have this weird mane coloration. And I've been watching the horses, and suddenly they've shown up now as being a real horse. They're called fjord horse. So this is a real horse. These horses have a black dorsal line, they're calling it. So the mane is black in the middle and then white on the outsides. So then they trim it. They can make this horse have this weird pattern. So this is not dyed. This is all natural, and they just trim the hair to expose the black center. And they do all different patterns. There's also ones like with hearts and stuff. So now these guys that were in the movie Frozen are now they're real creatures, at least according to the internet, that they always have been. Okay, so this is another example of things that first, for me, showed up like as a fantasy, or in this case, it was a meme. For a while, some years ago, a meme went around where people were photoshopping human teeth into animals. And a big one I saw all the time was actually human teeth on fish. That was the first one that I saw, and then they started spreading it to everything. So that now here's one on like human teeth on a pug dog. There's ones on cats are pretty popular. Strangely, I'm not seeing the one that's on the human teeth on fish, but I think I know why, because that has now made it into the real world with these sheep's head fish. So now these sheep's head fish supposedly have teeth that look like human teeth. And at first it was just this row of them here. Now there's multiple rows of the teeth inside. That's kind of a more recent development. There's a lot of animals now that have multiple rows of teeth. It used to be just sharks for me that had the multiple rows. So again, keeps changing. Weird teeth all in the mouth, just insanity with teeth. Very strong pattern. I think we'll see more. I think we're just getting started. Okay, so another example of fantasy to reality. Talked a little bit about Pokemon. So a lot of the Pokemons in my old timeline, like 4 or 5 years ago, were pure fantasy creatures. But a lot of the creatures from the Pokemon Pokédex, the Pokemon universe, have actually shown up in reality. And one is this pangolin. Now, when this pangolin first showed for me a number of years ago, they were small creatures. And now they're really big. There's a whole bunch of kinds of them. They're very quite populous. Looking at the ear here, it looks like it's getting all spiral. That wasn't the case before. The claws have gotten a lot larger. These are very weird little animals. Well, big animals now. So it seems to be kind of a thing. There's other ones. This is a very striking one. I think this is called Poliwag. It's another one of the Pokemon creatures. So in the current timeline, it actually is modeled after a real creature, and that's these translucent tadpoles. Now you see this pattern in here. Not only is it a weird spiral, but supposedly these are this tadpole's intestines that are spiraling neatly around like this. So very, very weird. Not only are they translucent, but then they very conveniently have this amazing intestinal pattern. So again, another one that for me just kind of showed up from these Pokemon creatures. Okay, so another example of kind of this one's not actually a meme, but it's more like a viral image that a number of years ago, this shark that was a cyclops that just has one eye in the center, was found. I think it was dead already, but it's a little embryo kind of thing and so this image went viral very quickly. And at that time, I already knew about the Mandela effects, so I actually hunted to see if there were any other cyclops creatures that I could find, and I couldn't. But I was very suspicious, so this is another one that I've been watching. And sure enough, in the last year or so, there's just all kinds of cyclops creatures. This is a cyclops baby goat. This one actually did live, so it's standing here. It's alive. There's a lot of goats now and a few other creatures that now survives. And there's actually a word for this. It's called cyclopia. When I first researched this, they did not have a word. So I think we're going to see more of this. You know, creatures of legend, cyclops creatures can now survive. I'm wondering if we'll get a species that perhaps has this as its normal shape. We're seeing there's so many weird things now. You know, we've got species that have no males and only, like lizards, that only reproduce by splitting. Like somehow the female is able to produce viable offspring without a male. The males apparently weren't needed anymore for the species. In my old timeline, they would say that the species would stagnate and die if they didn't have the mixing of the genetics. But in this timeline, it does not seem to be a problem at all. Genetics are a lot more flexible here. Okay, so those are the animals. Let's talk a little bit about humans, the human animal. So one of the most popular Mandela effects around is the location of the heart. Used to be on the left. This little bit of residual, or residue as they call it, shows what a lot of us remember. I also remember the rib cage being open in the center and not attaching. This guy kind of has it because that center attachment is smaller. Also, he has the black eyes that a lot of us don't remember there being bone back behind the eye. So it's a little bit of a residue. The hips are still weird, though, for me, but can't have everything. Okay, so some really weird anatomy ones. I don't think this has been covered by many people, but so supposedly now the story is that humans have these kind of like patterns on their body that are hard to see, but supposedly if you put a black light on, you can see these patterns in your body. Now what's weird is that I could not find any images of a black light showing these online. You would think that if you could see these with a black light, that people would be looking for them and put it online. I don't have a black light, but if any of you do, see if you can see any of these weird patterns. So it varies by person. So basically, these are like patterns similar to what animals have, but they're just kind of hidden. This is a very weird storyline. I think we're going to see a lot more come out of this. And so each person has a little bit unique patterns, and these are common patterns in here. I mean, like, look at the checkerboard, really? Checkerboard pattern is supposed to be natural. This is like down the middle, kind of like those half and halves. This is like a tiger stripes. This is like almost spotted. Very weird. So the story now is that if you have any skin conditions, it'll show up these patterns. So this is supposed to be, the pattern is called Blaschko lines. And so apparently, supposedly these have been known about a really long time. And you can develop, if you have any skin conditions, they'll develop along these patterns. So what we're seeing is more and more actual weird skin condition type things. And one that's really common now, at least online, is this vitiligo thing. And so you just have like depigmentation of the skin. But see, notice how it's symmetrical, mostly symmetrical across the face. And that's what's been getting me for the last 2-3 years, is I've noticed that it's very symmetrical. It used to just be weird patches, and now a lot of the ones you see are symmetrical. So this is supposed to be a model that has the vitiligo. So it's starting to look more and more like animal coloration because it's symmetrical. And they're saying that these lines that we have are similar to the animal pattern lines, which I've certainly never heard of until the last year or so. So, speaking of memes, and this is one I've been thinking about for years, the zombie apocalypse meme. What does it mean for humanity? Why did it become so popular? Why did it come out of nowhere like that? I've thought about this even before the Mandela effect was something that I knew about. And afterwards, when I started seeing all those creatures first start as memes or fantasy creatures and then come into reality. So, what does this mean? And maybe it'll mean different things for different people. For the Bible people, maybe it means the strong delusion. For non-Bible people, maybe it means brainwashed by the television or addicted to materialism. There's so many options. So I think that that's going to be one of our challenges now as we see sociology and the economy and everything just acting so strange. Is what does it mean? What does it mean for our future? And how do we control or change things for the better? I mean, if you think about fantasy and imagination, what do we put back into the world and how does it come back out in reality? So I think that's something that we all have to think about. And I know that a lot of other speakers will be covering that topic. But I think that from what we're seeing, that there's different ways that the zombie apocalypse might manifest. And, maybe some of these ways can be reversed if we put our minds to it. So I've done a lot of observing old Mandela effects, and I've done a lot of observing patterns of where it might go. But in the end, the ultimate question is, how do we as a people make it go in a better direction? So at least keep that in mind for the future, and thank you so much.
And welcome back, everybody, to the Q&A for Miss Eva Nie. What a great presentation, Eva. It was just like watching your show. I felt like I was right back in the middle of the night watching another episode of Once Upon a Timeline. Absolutely great. Thank you, Miss Eva.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I want to say that, that was a perfect reason why I love watching your channel, because I never cease
to... that one more time. We went a little bit of feed or a little bit of a break up there.
For me? I'll go to...
Is it for me?
Oh, it might just be you, actually.
Hold on, let me just check. It could be me. Wait a second.
No, you're coming through really clear, and he's not for... We'll just continue on for now.
That was me. My bad. Apologies.
All right. So it's wonderful because you always blow my mind with some of the stuff going on, and some of them seem pretty ridiculous, don't they?
Yep, definitely. It continually blows my mind. 4 years ago, we were just talking about spelling changes, and we thought that South America was the weirdest. But it just gets weirder and weirder, and politics and everything else following suit.
Excellent. So let's see. We've already got some questions. It actually started during the premiere earlier from your, which I love. That anybody who missed the interview before the conference today, please go check it out, because that was awesome too. What a great discussion earlier. Okay, so Jen's Gems asks a question. If consciousness is here to express itself in multiple simultaneous ways, isn't agreement on collective memories a way to funnel us into one, thus more controllable?
Agreement on collective memories? I'm not sure I really understand that question. Are we talking about just discussing the Mandela effects and agreeing on them? Or are we talking about in order for something to show up, it has to be agreed upon by everybody? I suspect the latter is likely true, but I don't know, it might get complicated, because it does seem like sometimes you see things yourself and you point people to them, like, okay, look at this website. And it's like they see something completely different sometimes. So I don't know if they're actually kind of in a slightly different timeline, or they're just not able to perceive the exact same things we see. So we kind of assume that when I'm looking something on the internet, I see the exact same thing that everybody else does. But I know I'm no longer sure of that, especially lately. There just seems to be times when people just can't observe the exact same thing that I'm seeing. So I don't know. And I'm not sure about, I'm not even sure if I understand the question, but that's how I'm answering it.
That's perfect, because I don't know how to clarify it. But it did come during it came out during your, like I said, the premiere. So it could have been, you guys talked a little bit about other stuff during that. So this one from Overprotected Sherry, who says, spell orangutan now, and it's quite different. Have you noticed that one, or is that a change for you?
Oh, yeah. Originally for me, it was orangutan, but it has, and it's an older Mandela for me, but it changed to orangutan.
Yeah,
so
right.
There's no G. Yeah, but that one actually was one I'd noticed before I even knew about the Mandela, maybe like 10 years ago. And I just, I must have remembered it wrong. I think I thought that there was more than one spelling, and I had just not seen that other one. But after I learned about the Mandela, I'm like, it has Mandela written all over it.
It sure does. And, you're making me realize that I noticed it a really long time ago. And one of the cool things about the way she remembered this is because she said when she was a little girl, you remember the drink Tang. She would remember it was orange Tang. So you spell it like orange Tang. And so now it's nothing like that, orangutan or something. And it's quite different than I remember. What about you, Jerry? Do you remember that one? Tang or a tan? Actually, you're muted. Not in Zoom on the mic. His mic might not be working.
Okay. Well, I also remember similar that I thought of that because I was a big Tangaholic when I was a kid. And it seemed like they were more orange colored back then. It seems like they've kind of lost some of their oranginess as well.
Yeah. If you have a USB mic, you might try just unplugging it and plugging it back in. That usually helps with mine. Okay, next question. Once upon a timeline, you might have answered this in the chat, but Sherry was asking if there's a place with all of these light up beaches and pink lakes and light up mushrooms, because I think it looks a lot like Pandora. We were kind of commenting in the chat.
Pandora, was it the what is that movie
from Avatar?
Avatar, yeah. Okay, yeah. It does look like a lot like that. You do have to wonder how much some of these movies became very popular, and now we're seeing similar things.
Right, so, just like you were saying, it totally ties in with what you were saying, where you've got this horse and Frozen, and now here it is in real life.
That horse was not here for me. I mean, it does seem that some people just, I call it like coming from a timeline closer to the current one than I do, because it seems to work on sort of a continuum where some people see a lot of MEs, and then some people just see a middling number, and then some just see little bitty changes. And so it's like, for some people, maybe the narwhal was always here, and for others it wasn't. So I think some people just assume that all the Mandelas if they don't see that specific Mandela effect, then it can't be a Mandela effect, but it doesn't really work like that. It exists on a continuum.
Yeah, it sure doesn't work that way. And you learn that after talking to so many people, because you'll realize that everyone's got sort of their own list of what they're affected and how they remember things. So it's very dynamic and individual.
There's a couple of them that are like huge in the community, and I don't see them. And so it's not cut and dried, even though I see a lot of them. There's still a few, like Tiananmen Square, Tank Man for me didn't get killed. And I know that's very
same
popular.
Here. Same for me. No, I remember it just as it is.
Mm-hmm. I don't actually remember it just as it is, though. I actually remember him like doing the stop motion with his hand and not having the grocery bags. And there are others that remember like that too.
Yeah, I think I remember him doing it. I thought that was just earlier in the clip. Is it not?
No, he doesn't do the stop motion anymore.
I remember him doing that. Yeah. And I just thought I was seeing more of the clip than I'd seen before, maybe, but I definitely remember that.
Yeah, for me, he did the stop motion, and then they drug him away, but he didn't climb all over the tank originally.
Oh, okay, yeah, that was new for me too. I was thinking it just cut off before that. So it's so funny how the brain tries to justify why things are different. And you were talking about that earlier too, because you can feel this internal struggle for your brain to just try to just make things normal, when they don't appear to be. You're good.
Like rationalizing. Rationalizing in the beginning. I did that a lot. We rationalized, like Jiffy was my big rationalization. I remember the first time I picked that up and went, that was a goofy logo change, and went on with my day.
Yeah, and it's not tough. It's not tough for the brain, because like with cartoons, for instance, when I noticed the Looney Tune change, I remember making that clever connection between Looney Tune and cartoon. So the way my brain justified it is, well, I was a little kid. Maybe I spelled cartoon, CARTUNE, and I just, you know what I mean? So even though I remembered it being TOON, it's just the brain just puts that little bit of doubt in there where you can't be 100%. So that's why it took me like a year to really be affected, to really know, oh my gosh, things are really changing. Yeah. Okay, so let me see if
I got a question.
Okay.
Eva was answering a couple of these in chat, but have you ever heard of the zombie fires in Alaska, Eva? And what are your thoughts on it?
I had not heard of them until the chat, and I just looked it up. And it's pretty bizarre, because they're basically saying that in Antarctica, the fires that got started never went out. And I'm like, isn't it freaking cold up there? I mean, right? That's pretty bizarre. So, I mean, if they're going to be zombie fires in Antarctica, then there's going to be zombie fires everywhere. Yet, I mean, I live in kind of a fire region in Southern California, and we do have problems with smoldering embers. And so they watch very carefully for like a week after a big fire goes through to make sure all those embers are out. Because, charcoal a really big piece of charcoal can smolder for quite some time, especially if there's a lot of debris on top of it. But just for like a week, or days, and it's not months. That's crazy. That's just insane. I'm very curious to see what kind of a storyline excuse they come up with. But on the flip side, it's a little disturbing because if it can happen there, I mean, where else can it happen? Everywhere, unless they come up with a weird story for like how, this might be one of those bizarre Mandelas where they say it's so cold that the fire can last longer or something. They may come up with something like that. Some opposite, like ridiculous sounding things. I wouldn't be
so
surprised.
hot that it creates ice, right?
Yeah. I've covered some stuff like that. Yeah, I know. It's like what was it? Mercury is so close to the sun that the heat from the sun makes it more prone to ice. That it's crazy.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous.
I gotta say that one didn't make sense to me either. I called shenanigans on that one.
Yeah, I was going to include that, but my show was just getting way too long, so it got cut. I'm pretty sure that one was one that got cut.
Shane, do you have a question over there, bud?
Yeah, we got one from Imaginationary Man. Could the womb of animals and humans be an intersection between dimensions or timelines where two avatars from different timelines can merge? Some say Earth is a womb and we are waiting to be born. And this kind of ties into the Mandela effect that scriptures that used to say womb and now they say matrix, I think. I just thought I'd bring that up too.
I think it just depends on how you think about it. I just think I tend to be more on that this is kind of like reality itself is sort of like a dream or a simulation. And I don't mean it like somewhere there's a computer and we're all on it, but it has more of that nature where it's just very changeable. The storylines can be altered going even into the past. And so in that way, I don't really think of like the womb being any different than the rest of reality, the rest of the human, as I don't think of it having as having a special nature versus all the rest of the weird reality. Me personally, I think it just depends on how you think of what is a womb and the nature of it and the nature of reality. So that's going to be a highly individual set of opinions.
Absolutely.
So I have one for you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one that I've been curious about myself. So I've made no two ways about it. I love watching Eva's show. I watch it every week. I'm a moderator over there. I absolutely love it. But one thing you bring up is these animals. All the time you're bringing up these odd animals. My goodness, you find some of the most interesting ones, I will say, to put it nicely. But these ones that are eating meat, these ones that are suddenly eating, they should be vegetarians. Are we noticing any like tooth changes or physicality changes to match the fact they're eating meat now?
Okay, so for that one, a lot of animals, I was not super familiar with their teeth structure. So I can't really answer for like, say, giraffes. There's definitely been some people who have covered, and I actually covered after they covered it. The hippopotamus teeth now have these weird, large teeth that stick straight out. I don't remember that being the case. And there are some animals that I did know the teeth structure for. And one of those is coyotes. And those teeth have very much changed. So they used to have, and this kind of goes opposites from what we're seeing, but coyotes are technically omnivores, and I sell the teeth. Like I get scrap teeth from other sources, and I sell online. So I see these teeth for years. For 11 years now, I've been selling coyote teeth, and they're changing. And one thing that's happening is the roots have gotten a lot longer on them. They're very long now. Another thing that's happened is they used to actually be more omnivorous looking. They had a lot of the flat molars in the back. And a lot of those molars started to, first one about here switched so it was like half flat and then kind of pointy on the side. And then the next one switched to be half flat and then pointy on the side. And then the first one became completely pointy. And so it's been going back through the jawline where there's only like one flat one back here now, and then one that's like half flat and half pointy. And there used to be a whole bunch of flat molars along there, like half. So those teeth structure have changed. So they're getting, I mean, their teeth are getting more carnivorous looking for coyotes. I haven't noticed a change in coyote diet, but they were always omnivores. So, the problem is I wasn't not intensely familiar with the teeth structure of many animals, but coyotes were one. There's also been some weird sinus changes in a lot of the smaller animals. But I don't see skulls and teeth of the exotic endangered animals, since those are protected. So I can't really answer on those.
Understood. Shane, you got one over there, Bubba?
Well, just kind of a follow-up to that. Any idea of why we see these animals? Because we have changes that seem so, cool and positive and bright, and then other ones that, some people would see that as a negative. I guess it doesn't seem to be just, exclusive in it. It seems to affect everything. But what's your thoughts on it? What becoming meat eaters with animals? Do you have any thoughts with that?
I've thought about this because from a cultural perspective and the way humans think of animals, it's creepy. We're used to thinking of rabbits as these cute little sweet, fuzzy, innocent, vegetarian creatures. And now they rear up and fight. They didn't used to do that. That was a few years ago, and they're eating dead animals and stuff. And my old timeline, they just, that was actually one of the arguments that where something's bandied around, is that you naturally have a taste for what is your native foods, that's your natural foods. And rabbits would never eat meat because their intestines weren't designed for it and they didn't have a taste for it. So I'm guessing that it's basically just that some of these animals are much more flexible now. We've seen a lot of anatomy changes in humans. There's also been some in animals. I noticed some changes. I don't know the animals as well as I knew humans, but so maybe it's just that they're more survivors now. They can eat whatever. The digestion's changed so that we can eat more things, would be my guess. I'm still not sure. Sometimes I'm just watching to see what happens as well, like everybody else.
I love that from a very naturalistic point of view. It's actually an improvement for them, at least, that they can eat more things, right?
Yeah, and live in more environments.
That we're seeing these animal changes not only in ourselves but across the entire animal kingdom. Are you seeing this too, Eva?
The biological changes are happening on every animal that I have knowledge of. Some like sharks have grown. Sharks. There's so many weird kinds now, but also some of the old sharks have poison spines. They have new capabilities. I apologize. I'm going to finish this one. I'm going to let my cat out because, of course, he decided to flip out, and you can hear him meowing back there.
To speak of animals.
Speaking of the beast. Yeah, speaking of the beast, his coat has changed a lot. I also noticed his coloration has changed. He used to be a mute tabby, but his back turned very solid colored, and his underside has turned very light colored. And he's gotten some stripes, some like one on each arm, big stripes. They look like he's wearing upper arm bracelets now. Wow. And his stripy stripes are breaking up into being more spotted. So he's changed a lot. And then my dog that I had before, who was passed on, but I did have her after I knew the Mandela, her back, you could feel those humans have gotten those weird spines along the backbone vertebrae, and she got those also. And I was feeling her back one day, and I'm like, wow, her back is so bony. I was afraid she had lost weight because I could feel so many bones, and she was an older dog, so you watch for that. But I weighed her, and her weight was exactly normal. She had not lost a single pound. And there had been some other things I had felt on her hips that were sticking out. And I think those were anatomy changes inside her. And another really weird thing that happened with her was when she was younger, she had gotten a little bit hit by a car. I mean, the car was only going like 5 miles an hour, and she ran out in front of it, and because she saw a rabbit or something, and kind of gotten boomed a little, and she kind of got thrown a little, but then she just kind of whined a little, and then she was fine. So I never took her to the vet because it wasn't that hard to hit and she seemed totally fine. And for years, there was never any sign of that. But then suddenly she got this weird, if you felt her sides, you could feel that a bone was sticking out in a weird place, but there was no bruising or damage. It didn't hurt her. And it was the exact spot where she had gotten hit by that car. And I've wondered if, since her rib cage seemed to have changed and covered more of her abdomen, similar to how humans have happened in the old timeline, I'm wondering if that rib either was stronger and didn't bend, and now we have this more meshed ribs, and did have some damage from that hit. All right, I'm going to let the cat out. I'll be back in like 10 seconds.
Yes, ma'am. Shane, have you ever had any animals that have had any changes like that, or you seen anything in your surrounding reality?
No, man. In fact, I'm like the opposite of Eva, where she is so great at.
Sorry about that.
Oh, no problem. I was just saying, like, I'm the opposite of you, where I'm not very good at noticing little details over and over, changing like that. And it's really a gift that you have, because I really admire seeing you really notice, time after time, like the picture behind you when you're, well, I don't know if it's there now, but I've seen you in the live stream where you're noticing little changes
right there. Yep.
Just being observant and to see that one transform over time, and I'm like, yeah, I kind of remember that. And it's really cool to see all of that. And you're really a treasure to the community with the way that you're able to see these things, because it's not like that for me. Is it like that for you, Jerry?
No, I don't. Now, I feel bad sometimes because I don't see them like a lot of people do. Like if somebody puts up a video and says, "Hey, is this changed?" Yeah, of course. But like walking through my local town or going out here for a walk in the woods, I don't see it like that. I really don't. I don't notice when there's a subtle change. For me, it takes more of a the whole room changing color, for instance. Like, it's got to be something very blatant in your face for me to go, oh wow, something's not right.
Right, but sometimes it's like almost intuitive or right brain that you sense something, right? It's almost like,
yeah, I really don't.
It's like, this feels different, and it could be the house is a different color, but that's just how I am about something. And if it has a different feeling to it, I'll notice it.
The whole room changing color. Gotcha.
So
how's it going, Chris?
So I think the thing is, though, basically, there's all different kinds of humans, right? So everybody has a little bit different skill sets. So it actually makes sense that everybody, like Shane, you obviously, and also Dark Wolf, are amazing at moderating and leading things and having a really nice, smooth interview and complimenting people and making them feel comfortable. So everybody has these different skill sets. If we all had the same one, that would just not be very efficient, would it? It's like we kind of specialize in what we can do. So that's my little niche, and you guys do your little niches, and each other channel has it. So I just think it all together, we cover it better that way. So
that's so funny you said that, because I felt like the Mandela effect has really, because it's such a subjective experience, and you have to sort of consider other people if you really want to kind of get at what's going on, because nobody really knows. Nobody here is saying they know for sure, So we're all sort of coming to the table, and we're all bringing our different gifts, like you're saying, and we really, the more open-minded we are, and the more we consider other people's points of view, the more we're really broadening our perspective and really maybe getting at what's going on. Right. So I think it's really important that we appreciate the diversity of views of what people think is going on, because with every idea, there's some growth within, as long as we don't get too triggered by it. Right.
Yeah.
All right, guys. On that note, you know what I don't like about these panel discussions is that they go way too quickly. Can you guys believe we are out of time for the Q&A already? This has been amazing. I've got 90 more questions that I would love to ask you, Eva. Of course, we don't have the time to do it.
Jerry, you have 10 more minutes. She has 10 more minutes. You have time for a couple more questions.
I stand corrected. Thank you, tech team. We appreciate that. We got the tech team on our back, ladies and gentlemen. So my apologies.
Yeah, let's let Chris
go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, Eva, I really enjoyed your presentation dramatically. You had so many thought-provoking, interesting things. one after the other. Boom, 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 boom. It was great. So I just I loved interviewing you, and I thought you did a really good job with that. So I just wanted to jump in and say that. So yeah.
Thank you. You know, a lot of that stuff, it's just been years, and I've just taken material from years of covering the Mandela. So it's not like I thought of that all in 1 minute, you know. It's
and I like how you said too, like whatever you're talking about, like it might change. So, you know, if you go back and check it, then things can change back to the way they are or whatever the situation is. And that's true. That's the way it seems to work sometimes.
Yeah, if a new animal shows up, and if they say it's nearly extinct and it's very bizarre, keep a sharp eye on that one, because those are the ones that I'm kind of, when they're newly showed up, they change most rapidly in my experience. And then if you check a year later, they won't be nearly extinct. They'll be just endangered, or and then they'll be threatened. It's like they go backwards from what the media says. Media says they're nearly extinct. And from my perspective, what's happening is they just showed up, and there'll be more of them later. So it's kind of a weird backwards system that they seem to be going in.
Yeah, the animals, and then the phenomena in the atmosphere, like the sundog image that you showed, was like really dramatic. What's going on with the moon bows, all that stuff is really fascinating.
Yeah, and it starts out with just one. Like at first, the sundog was just a circle around the sun, and then it expands out. So keep an eye on it. I'm sure that we'll see more and more weird sky phenomena. And there's always a scientific explanation for them too. So that's kind of hilarious. Some of them are very bizarre too. Ice crystals reflecting light seems to be the big favorite in the last few years.
Interesting. And how the ice cubes can make a formation above it in your freezer sometimes. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna look out for that one.
There's a whole bunch of weird ice phenomena now, like the snow rollers, and there's like 15 different weird ice things. I just couldn't cover them all, so I just had to pick one.
Yeah, Eileen had actually brought up that ice one with the ice growing out the top of her ice trays. Eileen, the co-host.
Oh, she saw it. Okay.
Yeah, she's actually experienced it and was wondering about it or whatever. So that's interesting. Yeah, because none of us had ever heard of it either. Yeah. That's
a really old one for me. I covered it a few years ago.
Yeah, it's been a while since she talked about it too. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Weird one though. Yeah.
So Fizzy Pop asked, and again, I'm sorry to bring it back to the animals. I know you covered so much stuff, but the animals seem to be the theme here on this one. You've covered a lot of manned animals, from very tiny insects, things that I kind of get creeped out by a lot, up to the cuter things. So what is your favorite manned animal?
I think it would probably just be narwhals, because it was one of the first ones. And it is an older one, and it is so ridiculous that they have like 8-foot spikes on their head, and they're an ocean-going creature that it doesn't even seem like, how can you even eat with that thing on your head? And it's also one that I saw and was marveling at before I knew about the Mandela effect. I heard about those, and I'm like, how could I not know about this? Is totally bizarre. And I actually have long tracked weird animals. So that's got to be my favorite. I don't think it's the cutest one, but it's the one that sticks in my head right away.
Gotcha. And I don't want to miss any questions here, because we are running short on time for real. Let me see here. One more. Do you think the Earth, that there is an expansion and contraction of the continents that move them from a Pangea state, then back to Pangea state, like the Earth and or heart taking a breath, Hindu type of idea?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that the Japanese have a lot of that kind of the concept of a cycling of eras and times, where that is similar to the in-out breath. And I've heard that from a number of sources. I'm really not sure on Earth. It does kind of seem like way back, the concept of Pangea for me was just a theory, and kind of a new agey wacky one at that time. It was considered. There was no evidence for it. And then I've seen that they actually started teaching it in school, and now it's accepted. And it does very much look like the continents are squishing into what would be like a Pangea. So that science is saying it's the opposite that we're spreading out. But again, it is like the animals. What I see with my eyes is opposite of what the science is claiming is happening. So it could be, as far as I have also researched quite some time ago the concept of the expanding Earth model, perhaps explaining some of the weird anomalies. But again, since I'm kind of into the dream sim thing, I think maybe it just depends on what timeline you're in and which direction you go for some of this stuff.
Yeah, I was noticing how the way you were viewing things was totally how I was. And I even maybe would add the game element, not to sort of cheapen the experience, but, to make it more fun, because, you can, I've done that my whole life. You get a crappy job, but you can like make a game out of it, like maybe outwork everybody else or whatever it is. And, and that really makes people angry too. You're not really doing it to be the best. You're just trying to, make it through the day. But yeah, just the whole game idea, the simulation idea. What do you think about that? Like more like a learning experience.
Yeah, I definitely do think that multiple of these can be true on different levels. I think that probably it's something that it's hard to really wrap your brain around because it's so complicated. But I've definitely noticed that just in life, and even before I knew about the Mandela effect, you get a job, you hate it, but then if you change your mindset, then things change at the workplace too, and things can stop bothering you. And I've actually seen people get I had a job where the boss was really mean, and he was just very hard to work for. And I saw people kind of evolve through that job where they learned how to just, I'm not listening to any baloney. I'm just going to do my job. And it was interesting because it seemed like people would reach a certain level where they learned their lesson in that job, and then suddenly they'd find another great job and they were out of there. It was almost like that job itself was a learning process. Yeah. And it wasn't learning to handle customers. It was learning to handle the boss. And once you learned your lesson, reality would cut you loose from that job. You didn't have to have it anymore. And the same thing happened with myself. I got to a certain point and then I got a new opportunity that kind of fell in my lap. And that's what I'm doing now. So I think that Earth might be like that also. And I've had a lot of dreams like that, you come here to learn certain things. And, there's a lot of traditions that say the same. So I think it's likely. I can never say for sure, I know for sure, but my feeling that is likely.
Well, I really want to thank you. You are such an asset to the community with your ability to look at these things and to keep everybody informed with it. And I thank you so much for what you bring.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
And I second what Shane said. Absolutely wonderful. Great show last night. Guys who don't know, go over to Once Upon a Timeline. Amazing shows every week, the exact same time. She's very consistent on her schedule, which is always a good thing for YouTube because there ain't a lot of that on YouTube. So, ladies and gentlemen, Miss Eva Nie, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Eva.
Eva, you want to go ahead and drop out if you would for just a moment, please? Okay, we would appreciate it. She will be back later on tonight, correct?
Yes, I will. I'll see you later.
Perfect. We'll see her again on the panel. Shane, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Shane Robinson, co-moderator. All right, Shane, might you go ahead and give me a drop just real quick there, bud? And ladies and gentlemen, I present to you now, Mr. Christopher Anatra. Show's yours, my friend.
Show's mine. Okay. By the way, I'm noticing that my shirt is kind of like the colors are matching the comic graphic that we did, which I think is kind of cool. So anyway, so I am going to introduce our next presenter for our presentation for IMEC 2020. I'm just going to read from this. Sean Bond. Sean Bond is a good friend of mine. He's also the founder of Silver Cord Spiritual Science and the Psionic League. He is a psychic, psionic specialist, and healer with a vast skill set, which includes tapping into the quantum database of Earth's Akashic records, accessing past life knowledge, skill sets, and dormant abilities. Sean is a psionic specialist. What does psionic mean? Psionic means the practical use of psychic powers or paranormal phenomena. Sean can assist in creating operating systems to help individuals manifest dormant abilities that unlock their psychic potential and upgrade the body's energy systems. Everyone embodies spiritual technology, which encompasses an infinite scope of possibilities, such as connecting the individual with their spiritual entourage, their higher selves, Great Spirit, the Creator, Earth Mother's realms, and other expressions of themselves throughout time and space to resolve issues and exchange wisdom, knowledge, and skill sets. Everyone is born with a unique skill set of gifts just waiting to be unlocked. Sadly, most people go their entire lives without opening their own presence. Anybody in need of help and assistance, especially targeted individuals, Sean says, I have the tools to help you. So Sean's presentation is entitled Lucidity in This Dream. The idea of lucidity in this dream has the power to unite science and spirituality, bring magic into our lives, and deliver tools that we need to succeed in life and manifest our dreams. With these tools, we can transform ourselves and environment regardless of what situation we're born into or we find ourselves in. We can reclaim our freedom and sovereignty and break through any perceived limitations with courage to find truth. Are you ready to form your own rabbit hole and quantum jump to being the greatest version of yourself? Now, I will say that Sean's presentation was originally 2 hours long. We had that reduced to about 1 hour and 20 minutes. And what we can do is we can post his entire presentation in a separate video. So when you watch this presentation, those of you that are against new ways of thinking and expansion of consciousness may not resonate with it. You might think it's too new age for you. But for those of you like myself that have had their spiritual awakening started with the Mandela effect, you're really going to enjoy this presentation. It's packed with information about our reality or dream. And you're probably going to want to watch it more than once just to pick up everything that Sean's talking about. You'll see just the graphics that he uses in the back and so forth, just packed with information. About 3/4 of the way in, Sean reads into the Mandela effect regarding Dolly from the James Bond movies and how she went from having braces to not having braces. And what does that mean? What does healthy teeth have to do with it? What's the meaning of teeth and how teeth are related to time and time travel? It's all really fascinating. With that said, I welcome you to the year 2020 and to the new age. Everything is changing. If you haven't realized that already, just stay tuned. The world is going to change even more. And now I present to you Sean Bond and Lucidity in the Dream.
Let's get into some timey-wimey, wibbly-wobbly. So, I'm Sean Bond. This is Lucidity in This Dream. Reality Warping 101, How to Quantum Jump. So, a little bit about me, in my background. Oh, and just so you know, if you're listening to this or watching this, I'm emitting free spiritual upgrades and DNA codes. So to those that want it, I recommend watching all the way through. You'll get a lot. Even if you don't recognize exactly what's going on or the information, your higher self will integrate it and you will become more. So, going into this, I was born in Delaware. This world does not have certifications for what I do. The lost wisdom retrieval kind of concept I'm going into is going into the library of DNA records light held in magnetized wormholes that records everything that's ever happened to you, and your DNA lineage, ancestry, memories recorded, and then that as a supercomputer accessible. And I teach others how to do this, And so you can come to me if you want to learn how to do that. I've been hired as an assistant to the president and CEO of Next Software Food Distribution and I work with Chris Sinatra, the quantum businessman. I've also been certified as a massage therapist artist. I learned how to DNA program, got into learning time and space physics, and then learned how to repair that for a person's timeline into existence to get rid of things that want to take them in a whole nother direction that they don't want to do in self-defeating programs, and then get them in alignment with the path they choose. I am a psionics specialist. Psionics is a fancy military term for their accumulation of knowledge and wisdom throughout the ages for psychic abilities. I don't really like the word psychic because it's been associated with things that scientism, skepticism has called quackery. So I like to dance around their trigger words. Superhuman abilities in the accumulation the military has, so anyone that says this isn't real, go talk to the military. Reiki Master I've also been certified in, and craniosacral, therapeutic pain releasal, negative emotion release. I have gotten really popular for learning how to release pain from people over a distance, so I don't need to even be there, and I can help people with debilitating back pain, chronic and acute pain issues in really any form. Headache, really good at, even to the bone pain, which is harder, and I'd rather be in person for that. I am also the founder of psionicleague.com, which is a forming group of like-minded people to bring this out to the world and empower in every way. I also have been hired by Earth Mother to protect the planet from incursions in the timeline, and I communicate with other beings of this nature in the timeline protective collective consciousness. And if you want to know more about that, contact me. Everyone believes they know what truth is, and I'm not here to tell you what truth is. It's literally for everyone to find. I'd get in trouble with my guides if I told you what truth is. Everyone's is a little different, but the grand, deep, objective truth holds all perspectives in oneness and unity. And I started to gather accumulations of truth and proof of these things that I've experienced that others don't find are real, because I felt like I needed to. And I went through all the types of things in the gauntlet of skepticism, skeptics, skeptactyl.com, skeptics.com, all these kind of paid, these websites. I love skepticism. I don't like corporate paid hijacked, paid to disprove something skepticism, because that isn't based on truth. It's not even based on what the person wants. It's what they're paid to do. Then I found out there's a suppression for powerful truths, and felt a deep urge in my being, my core, to look past these veils. The establishment seems to be suppressing psionic evidence in videos. They say that this energy is not observable and therefore not science. It is absolutely observable. There's things absolutely that exist. There's hairy old field filters, there's Kirlian photography, there's many different spectrums of the electromagnetic spectrum, even beyond what dinosaur mainstream media talks about, that we have the ability to make technology to analyze. And so it seems more that the reasons they want to suppress it is because of the power it brings people. Certain dark chess players on this planet want to accumulate power and keep power out of the hands of ordinary people, so they maintain it. Psionic abilities threaten the power of those that have not truly earned their power by stealing it by force. I have a playlist now of over hundreds of demonstrations of abilities that people have learned and grown. So yes, absolutely it can be faked. And that happens all the time, and people do pranks and things under tables, and it's absolutely a thing people fake. But all you need is one, real one. And I've got examples of hundreds. Please, try to debunk it. I will be putting that playlist out more, but if you want to look it up, it's under Chi, Ether, and Quantum Field Mastery on YouTube. Imagine, if you will, the planet awakening and experiencing a shift of consciousness so great that governments around the world conduct psychological warfare on their own citizens in an attempt to control them by lowering their vibrations, keeping them in a constant state of fear. So I reverse engineer abilities. The way I do this is the body emits biophotonic energy that is a blueprint of everything you hold in your DNA, and it also gives you a synopsis of the person. And these can also travel through what's recorded in data in a photo of a person, because the light is captured. This biophotonic quantum supercomputer body scans the blueprints of abilities demonstrated previously and records it. I pick up that to-do list through my ability to read internal books and data in my DNA library to go into a to-do list of how to form the new ability. And I also go through mystery schools internally for that ability, which is like you going into a flow of the source of the knowledge and information and being taught by it, whether it be through a guide or the information coming right into your head. You getting inspirational thought is like a slow way of seeing this. Knowingness, downloading, translations, doing what it takes to make it so, and many more is how I get to the core of the goal of the ability and what it takes to form it. As an example in these slides, epigenetics is a form of you taking the driver's wheel of your genetics, realizing it's not just a random events, these DNA changes, and that you can change your own DNA through sound, light, vibration, words, intention, emotion. Many different types of energy, cosmic energy changes DNA, Schumann resonance. So many things can affect our DNA, especially if we have a goal and intention and we see what it needs and takes to unlock it and the keys. Also going into types of energy, we have different types of energy bodies that I call as a filing system way of categorizing the technology we have, such as dreaming body, astral body, etheric body, mental body, emotional body, all that kind of ways to describe something that you can narrow down to what that is specifically and then start working on to make it better. And by the way, as an example of some of the abilities I teach, I'm a healer, so I got into advanced quantum energy healing of the fractal layer of frozen light hologram of a person and bringing it to a greater order and health. Got into reading DNA, the spirit, and the Akashic record. I learned reverse engineering abilities, remote viewing, military program absolutely exists, psychic tracking, the police hire people to do this for finding lost people. Telepathy, I teach people how to do heart telepathy, and it goes into a deeper form of different bandwidths on the station. Vision work and journeying. Lucid dreaming, I help people with that. Bilocating during dreams, so you can see yourself shift in and out of different dreams at once. Internal nexus point of the third eye, being able to go into all the doors in the mind and consciousness and DNA and internal mystery schools. Advanced body diagnostics, to see what's going on in the body and if there's anything that needs your attention. DNA programming and healing, telekinesis, as well as using the force, magic, reality warping, divinity path energy if one wants to go into that, and many, many more. So here's what we're all for, the Mandela effect. How I got into this. I read into Mandela effects in their causation and their meaning. My experience with them is mostly personal ones, like changes of objects around and places, and me being like, oh, wasn't that there before? Or in that neighborhood, oh, that's completely different. Me just brushing aside usually until I found out more about this kind of thing. In my childhood, the neighborhood changed when I went back to it. Houses changed, but like a little bit more than that. Like the meadow was gone, the forest wasn't there, and I was like, did I make that up? And then also things like when big things happened, the room around me, I would get to detach from the rest of the hologram, becoming kind of in a hidden space. I did hidden in time and space. I did this to protect me from beings that were attacking me in spirit. I was like, I was figuring out how they knew about me and how they were able to find me if they're doing it from a distance. And then I learned how to cut that off and go into camouflage, and the attack cease, the emotions disperse, the anxiety, the pain go away. And then I learned how to steer it like a ship, becoming extremely sensitive to emotions and translating that data, clearing up the timeline and up and down, micro, macro, and training my way up through the school of consciousness timeline travel. My name is Bond, Sean Bond. Here's a meme going into a change having to do with the movies for 007 or James Bond into Dolly, where she used to have braces and now somehow she doesn't. And there was a whole joke that I remember having to do with the braces that doesn't make any sense right now. So it's a little concerning about that, but when I read into it, it seems like a better timeline change. Teeth. For me, in my experience with teeth, I used to have agonizing, even without cavities, pain of the nerves just flaring up to like torturous levels, and that would not go away for days, and nothing I did or took in medicine would make it go away. So that kind of forced me to learn how to release pain, and until I actually did that stuff, it would not go away. But it would go away when I worked on it energetically enough, which is interesting. It forced me to learn all these different methods to release a large amount of pain. Time. Okay. So teeth are like indications of your timelines. Everything you've ever eaten has touched your teeth and gone into the makeup of your hologram. So they touch every atom that goes into the making of you in the atomic field. They're like time crystals. They condense a lot of that in a filing system that you can observe. And if you're getting teeth pain, it'll usually mean time incursions, and that you can clear your timeline and that pain will start going away. So the timeline change having to do with Dolly is that the braces come off, that the timeline is much more pure, much more in order, and these are indicated by little changes in the existing structures of the timeline, such as what the movie had in effect to change in it. So her teeth are better than they were in the previous timeline. It's about 5 times. This represents macroly, where 5 times more secrets come out to the public than on the previous timeline. Going into the concept of James Bond and secret agent and spy missions that the public never hears about, as an example. And that's traded for the joke not making sense and it being pointed out on the reality change. And there being residual bleed over still existing. I've also had the humanitarian mission to help the planet grow and flourish. The Mandela effect is a ability in reality warping that goes into doing just that for either light or the dark. Large amounts of time I've put into the ability to manifest training how to release fertility blockages and wounds in the DNA, keeping a species from thriving more and breeding and being able to have more numbers out in the world, in my attempt to bring those beings back from the brink of extinction. Consciousness time travel So some animals thought to have been extinct boom back. Some examples of the image on these slides. Blue bees. I love them, and I hope they're more into flourishing. Whales are making a big rebound. The Tasmanian tiger is now not extinct anymore and has been seen once again. The Mandela effect for tigers, somehow they have a white spot on their ear that just seems weird when you look at it. But they're also rebounding. They're having more numbers, which I've absolutely been a part of the collective into that because I love tigers. Types of jumping ceremonies, as long as it's a sacred activity and you love doing it, it's can be gone into combination with quantum jumping. Dancing is a really good way. Singing, vision work, feeling deeply, casting spells, meditation, yoga, exercise, sexuality, dreaming, astral travel, ceremony of different types, movement, stillness, being present. Doing what you love is the best way for you to create magic. Make your own structures of sacred actions. Make a better spiritual version of every action you do in ceremony. Brushing your teeth, waking up in the morning, all these are actions that we're going to constantly use. Bring Psyox into this in some way. Like I turn my toothbrush into a way that cleans my timeline every time I do it. As an example. Another forms that you can bring into this is like when you're reaching out for a timeline you want to bring in, lassoing it in or harpooning, anchoring in, pulling in that timeline, and having that in your trajectory going forth, no matter what anything wants to make your trajectory. How to quantum jump. First step, quantum unentanglement. Detachment is the process of enlightenment in India and Tibet. To achieve light body and transformation into the rainbow body and dragon body, Buddha body, which is essentially them mastering past death and continuing in immortal, a beyond immortal state. Unmanifest, remanifest body in light somewhere else. And there's many examples of this that have been recorded. Detach from old timeline, habit patterns, energy, program, emotion, personality traits, interpretation of events with emotion. Detach from this. You can detach and unify at the same time. To do this, it's like you know what you're detaching from, which is separation consciousness, what's not you, what you're ready to let go of, things that are imprinting on you, non-unity, non-love, and going into the center of your heart, embracing unity consciousness in love and the rest of the universe, your source. It's kind of like becoming the fullest, purest version of yourself deep within by letting go of the 99 added stuff, shedding the old skin, or becoming the butterfly. Detach separation consciousness, embrace the unity consciousness in the center of the heart, source connection. Detach observer effect to empower garden of all potentialities to have a output. Schrodinger's cat box jumping ship. How about you guys? Is that how you remember the spelling of Schrodinger? To me, it looks a little weird. Either way. So you form your own Schrodinger's cat box. Detach your bubble of reality. House, room, if you're in the bath or your bed, meditation chamber, whatever you're using, from what is beyond the horizon of the seen to unseen. Steer that ship course of reality bubble to the direction of the destination, making leaps, bounds, and jumps till you reach your goal. And some of the things into this, the cat in the box, is it alive or dead? You won't know until you open the box, because the observer can change the outcome of the experiment. And that's within all possibilities and our ability to bring forth more likelihood of the possibility we want to see. Go back to the realm of all potentials, void, womb space of all creation, time streams, network of all potential timelines. Every choice point, every decision, every possibility, mirrored, branching tree of time bubbles, center points, you being all of them. Detach previously held potentials you don't want to anchor to you. center into the infinite of all potentials as if you are charging up for whatever you want, clearing the quantum field of all potentials in resistance to what you want. Clear, resolve evil, unbalanced, self-defeating potentials, and bring peace to all of them. Bringing into focus of infinite potential of whatever you want to do, what it takes to become that in unity, what it takes to become true. All the options creating, all the fractals of source of all energy, full spectrum light, creating as many things as possible, to learn as much as possible, to know thyself and the universe, free will, all of creation backing you. Bubble holding streams, all connecting in Indra's web. Find the reality timeline you wish to be on. Imagine creating space in the creational womb. A TV screen that allows the image to flow and appear without you forcing it. Vision board gets into helping amplify vision if it's not as strong, or if there's wounds in the imagination that happened to us as we were growing from being a kid. As a programmer reminder, vision boards help you every day know what your goal is and then put it into your subconscious and help you manifest it. Releasing expectations that want to force or control what manifests. If you release expectations, that goes into allowing the possibility that there's an even better potential in unity, and being that reality you want and cultivating that. See the paradise in the future that could be, and make that as HD as possible in your mind, and give it understanding, and then bridge that understanding of what that goal takes to get there, so that unfolds in your knowingness, so you're living that action daily and emanating that change out into the world, being the change you want to see. Be the new timeline and detach from the old. Feel into what is truth in moment and held in the hologram in time, which might contain the nightmare of things of that we don't want to be, which brings us to want to change or want to change things. Feel into the pressure of the negative, undesired timeline. Feel what that weight on the heart. Release as you breathe slowly, deeply, to full pressure in your lungs. You may hold this for around, or more or less around 13 seconds is good as an example, but as long as you can without harming yourself. To give pressure of what is needed to transform and let go of. Pressurizing the chi and the oxygen in your lungs, distributing to the rest of your body to empower it, and to even create a stimulation of an altered state of consciousness that can only be accessed in creating light in that deep breath work. The quantum observer effect, going into that, and how you can change the outcomes by what you observe. Focus on the imagined timeline. Be one with the timeline merge, wholeness, oneness. Focus on it until full confidence in the release of the old and all doubt that you hold that it's not there anymore. Detach and reclaim stolen energy supporting negative control systems of their timeline of, like, as an example, debt slavery, continuation, oppression, depopulation, or whatever. Imagine full and create paradise, heaven, utopia on earth, and what that feels like, and get inspirations on how to bring that closer as an example of back and forth. And once you have your vision of what to create, next to work on is foundational energy. Foundation is very important. As in the slide, if the building is strong but the foundation is weak, it doesn't really matter. It will still mess up its existence in the future. Similar to like a pyramid and how strong it is and lasting through time, having a strong base that supports it, building up from that. There's going into founders of things, of energy, of consciousness, of places and territory, and the authority that goes with that. Strong foundation, earning, strong foundation. You have an actual form of energy in the root going into this, and building that up in consciousness and energy and compression to where it can support greater levels of consciousness that you accumulate. Foundation of the new timeline is what you're creating. Strong. Foundational energy, what I've found, is usually a combination of source energy, love, and holistic full spectrum root energy, all combined to one. Forms base reality and other founder realms for this earth, and like her coming into existence and making from the ground up what would be in the space. Safety energy, you can go into this through 0 point of creation healing at its origin and source, and giving it what it needs, usually like love and wholeness. There's an elder version of yourself in soul, like the higher self kind of thing, but going back, that you can work with an ancient soul family in unity and learn from them, and how to get better at foundational energy from foundational teachers. And so, as an example, to grow a good structure, it needs a strong foundation, strategy, objectives, structure, system, process, action. Even negative structures need a strong foundation to be able to last through time, such as the structures that are built up off the backs of people for this society. Will it into being is a ability into the willpower you have in your solar plexus, your center point, your sun, that can shine brightly or dim, based on how you feel in your free will and your willpower to do what you want to do this life, and not letting that be taken by others. It has a form of energy, and you can accumulate it to where it's a great strength. You'll see this in people with big wills and determination, dedication, and action-oriented people. Will harvesting system removals, there's a lot of things that want to steal our energy, and as you remove those, then you get more accumulating. Put will towards your manifestation. The solar plexus is your internal star, how bright it is, and it can actually be represented by how real stars work in color spectrum, from like black, brown, red, orange, all the way up to like really white and blue, being very energetic. As an example of how you shine deep within. You don't want to force it to be a color, you want to actually read what it represents in factuality of what you feel, and then work on it being better. It can actually burn your negative programs as like firewood and use that to strengthen it. Throw the blocks into the sun. Different types of will. There's your I am will, which is the perceiver, the conscious being of the spirit, your will. Your ego's will, which may be a little different. The ego is what you believe you are this lifetime, the survival mechanisms that keep you going. It's very self-defeating programs we've inherited from our DNA, though. The higher self will, the Earth's will, Source's will, infinite fetus's will, the contracts for experience you have this lifetime, and the unity collective will all together, and what they're working towards. You can create unity will agreement portals in energy towards desired outcome. I go into portals in other presentations, so I don't have to really go into that here. It's a way gate that allows things to travel through it like energy, and it's much easier to create energetic ones in the unseen, but they can be, and they have physically. There are unity will expanding light tracks through all united sources and bringing them together, feeling them, bringing polarized will to balance, being will and what it takes to become truth. Power, empowerment, like an expanding, burning power, starlight power, pulse, ember, flame. It's also in your solar plexus. Power energy generator fountains, turning those on, well springs in the star. What is your source of power? Going deep into that, not being afraid. One of the biggest things we fear is that we're more powerful than we could ever imagine. And going deep into facing that fear will go into you embracing more of your power and the responsibility that comes with it, so that you can either, use it for good or the other way. You usually lose it, though, if you're doing it for negative purposes. You can also revisit powerful incarnations you've had and re-merge with them and bring them into the now. Power amplifying DNA lineages that go into what we've inherited through our ancestry and its technology, and activating that. Places of power all around. Going to these places, we seek them out. Mountains, journeys, vision quests, they add greatly to our life, and more so in the unseen, when we know what we're getting from those places. There are also those types of places of power in dream that you can go to in astral, and that adds the Kundalini Dragon Force power. That is a energy current that comes up from the Earth's heart, goes into the root, and stimulates a part of your own consciousness to rise a frequency of current to your cranium to empower all your neurons and increase mental power. You bring these up like currents of energy, and there's ones for different types. You can have small little Kundalini activations, or you can have big ones that explode many currents all at once. It's part of you and Earth, and the snake symbolism, you don't have to be afraid of. It's just a representation of the movement that it goes in up the spine. Superpowers, those are fun. Another good, more accurate way to describe what superpowers are the word wholeness powers. So when you bring a power in yourself to full wholeness, especially when it's a very advanced ability, then it will be known as a superpower that you're able to hold, maintain, and keep going and train to be better. It has to do with your own ability, awareness, state of being, consciousness, manifestation, being now. One of these is from the recent protests. As an example of power, power comes from unity. If you were to examine the people that claim to have power or in darkness and separate them and put them in a room by themselves, what power do they really have without other people to control or influence or dominate? So it's an illusion, that type of power, and it only goes through the consent of those other people. And real power comes from the unity of multiple states of consciousness agreeing towards one focus. This is what propelled all of our society. Next layer to amplify your quantum jump is going into magic. Not magic with the C, but magic with a K, is how you search for real magic through the muck of tricks. It's a neutral tool of super manifestation. It's the user that makes it light, neutral, or dark. Most of the surviving magical texts now are external magic, though. They don't really go into your internal magic as much. And they're also mostly neutral and dark because of the corrupted society, the destruction of wisdom teachers, and how the mystery schools have come today. But the technology and awareness they bring out is still valuable. All dark can be transmuted into light, because it is just lack of light, with balance and understanding, not to impose on the free will of others, and be aligned with natural law, which is observable and can always come back to, which is like the golden rule: do no harm, but take no shit. Protect your rights. The divine feminine aspects and the divine masculine, to not harm others and protect yourself. Do not harm goes into do not steal, do not take life, all these different spectrums. Seeing yourself as the other being. People that have cut off themselves from seeing that and gone into ego have taken it into a dark state of being. Part of the process for quantum jumping is gathering enough magic and energy to perform and manifest a desired outcome. Charging up that magic in an activity that you've created, such as a ceremony or ritual, and a magic eruption from yourself, or like how the external magic brings up from other places, explosion force. Releasing blocks is one of the ways how you increase your magic. The magic body mostly is blocked in most people, but some people it's pouring a little bit of units of energy every now and again. And sometimes we have guides as well that help support us. You'll find blocks, lessons having to do with abuse from it in the past. There are generators for magic in the body. mostly in the solar plexus. For those that want to unlock their magic body, please see me. I can help with that. Everyone's dealing with different things. A lot of these are examples like magic blocks, lessons we have to go through based on abuses we've done with it in the past. Magic does not want to be used to harm people, and the light and neutral aspect will stop working with the being when they start abusing and doing harm. Generators are in the body. There are also places of power that we can go to, like well springs and plumbing of magical energy that springs up from the Earth's heart. These will be coming more online as Earth is coming out of the state where she took a big wound, had to go in a little bit of a coma for a bit, and in the dark ages, and then came out of that as if she's healing herself, and we're cells of her healing ourself, healing her healing us. And as she is able to rise back into her power, more of these places of power will activate, as well as grid workers will go and activate them for her, and more magic will return to the world. There are also places of power for magic in dream and astral, of course, and then crystals you can find that are specifically good for magic. There's a rare different types. Not all crystals are good for this, but they are good for learning things that you want to program them. Some are better at other tasks than others, but that you can teach any one of them to learn something. They record everything that's happened around them, terabytes of data. It's all our technology, TV, computers, silicone chips. Radio is a crystal. It gains its power from a crystal with a copper wire wrapped around it with intense pressure to create piezoelectric effect. It makes it emit more of a frequency. There are objects of power also that exist. You can find them. Some are in museums and have been created by advanced sculptors or smiths. And there are also those in the energetic form that you can find in dream. Creating psionic amplifiers. There are these devices the military have created, as well as devices inventors have found to increase our energetic field and our health and how well we perform. Those will all go into amplifying these states as well. Objects of power, like magic amplifiers. As an example of this, if you were to find a tree hit by lightning, that tree would have taken the energy throughout its entire being and then locked that in as a form of power. Intensely amplifies any energy that flows through it, and you can use that as like a wand or a staff, as an example. There's also going into magic circles or using sacred geometry, sigil magic, creating light in your mind and forming things with that and overlaying that with the body are examples. And whatever sacred activity you can go, you can introduce magic into it, especially when your current, your wellspring of energy is flowing and you're producing a certain amount of units of magic an hour or second, whatever. Use the Force, Luke. This goes into things that have been soft disclosed in our culture having to do with the Force, things that make things happen, move. This goes into another form of reality warping with it. Ways to do this: meditation, breath work, dance, emotional intensity, vision quest journeying can amplify your Force energy. It's also in the solar plexus is its own thing. It's mostly you'll see it work in telekinesis and actually like positive, negative, neutral forms of force, like we know about the negative form that where somebody is forced against their will kind of thing. But that's an example of energy that's going through a person's body and bringing them into action. It can be, again, like in the Jedi and the Sith concept, neutral, positive, and negative. It's a tool. And based on the user, how it's used. Jedi soft disclosure, the training involved in that, very well spoken. Included Baby Yoda in there, so hope that gives me points. You have a Force body, there's mystery schools, there's missions you can do for more increase in your activations. Missions for like Earth as an example. You can ask what she wants to increase your Force. Solar Force, Galactic Force, Universal, you can unite with all these flows of the universe. Become one with them, reach out, grab them as if you can touch them and feel deeply into them, be them. Retrieving stolen Force power generators, a very sought after energy, which is why your abilities get shut down if you're having your ability stolen. So if you're able to protect it, it's able to increase. Why power retrieval? parts and energy reclaiming parts of consciousness. Be the force. There's also rare DNA lineages that you can open and activate to this. The mitochondria are a soft-disclosed concept in Star Wars. The metachlorian cover. This also covers concepts of microflora that are very energized batteries that you can unify with, like elemental bacteria that have learned how to eat and make different types of elemental matter a part of their being, and that go into their form of energy that they have flow through their being, that you can sync together. There are force energy generators, of course, force place power, force guides that you can talk to. Qigong goes into this, energy storage, bringing all that energy into Dantian of yang and yin qi together in unity. That like brings forth the telekinesis, the force. Big qi. Little qi is organs that produce your body qi. Big qi is the ocean of qi that surrounds us everywhere, that you tap into in the 0 point of energy in your heart and bring in force of the universe in oneness. And doing this through love, action, dance is the first way I found out how to do this. Feeling abundance, compassion, going with flow, and it just emanating excitement is how you know when the universal big chi is coming in and wanting to be a part of you. It is consciousness, so you have to express yourself in a way where it wants to be a part of you, and everyone likes a good party. Accumulate enough force energy to do the job. And I also got, again, chi, ether, quantum field mastery, if you want to go into these subjects and learn and see an example of a blueprint of people using these abilities that are not fake, but there are, of course, fake ones. There are also paid disinformation corporate skeptics. The government does not want this information public. They do engage with it. The Russians engage with it. They had to learn how to do that back and forth. Heart. The heart's shedding of its skin and heart walls. It's like a love level up to pure version of what's needed to jump more successfully and with greater force. It requires a leap of faith through the eye of the needle on the leapfrog game of invisible floating platforms, stepping stones over the ravine of failure and doubt, of heart wounds. For those that want to go deeper into their heart, before they can, they must let go of everything preventing them from going through the eye of the needle, their source connection, their true self. It's kind of like an arches, there's symbolically in Mr. Schools, the arches with the sphinxes initiating who can pass through and saying who can't and who's not ready. To the luminous ocean of oneness, bliss, being, stillness, silence of the mind, and infinite wisdom just flowing that comes without any effort at all. And each time you wish to access this mode of consciousness, it asks you to let go of deeper and deeper anchors in culture, the ego, identity. That is a process going back to your original greater existence, pure source self. The goal is to learn how to do this, then maintain it for longer periods of time, and then learn how to continue it into waking state or even go deeper, eventually transmuting your body with source energy and being your infinite creator self. It's also the great work, your ascending timeline. Many words to describe this. The heart wall and trapped emotions forms around our heart in time of trauma. We put traumas into little boxes that we're not ready to handle so we can take care of them later. And they will keep reverberating through our timeline, asking us to heal them until we're ready to. The heart wall is you. Hug yourself. Generate love. Give it all it needs to become love power, to be whole. Tear down that wall into love power. Transmute the heart wall into love power and love resilience. Heart walls are also a good metaphor for what we're facing in the world. If you were to examine the concepts of both protesters and cops, there's a wall between them dividing them, and there's a wall around each individual's hearts that keep them from being able to feel and empathize with each other. You can feel some of these heart wall layers as an actual connection to something you feel in your environment, such as someone else that you're facing, that, such as the wall of cops. If you're able to feel into that heart wall, see it as yourself, give it what it needs in wholeness and love, and transmute it into its greater state of being, the wall comes down and it turns into heart empowerment that allows the heart's light to flower out, allowing emotions of love to connect between individuals, to reach the hearts of the police, to be able to realize, we are you, please stop this action, let us come together and solve these problems, as an example. In the slides, there's like layers of the pericardium. They're metaphorical for many layers of the heart, and it holds water sacs that can be programmed as water, and some of our trauma will be stored there. This will also go into our auric field light emission of biophotons held in electromagnetic field and is programmable, and this will hold negative data that we can clear up through shining that light within. Let out your emotion of love. Empathic abilities for all the empaths out there, I can relate. I had it turned all the way up and it's been horrible at times, but also amazing at other times. And one can balance this to where there is no negative experience and it's all love coming in with full translation, because that's what the heart and emotional body is. The ability to translate any data of energy coming to your heart and then have it come up as intuition, as well as understanding and knowing others deeply. Excitement, bliss help this greatly. Amplifying this as a part of your equation in quantum jumping, the emotions are very important. Bliss indicates how much charge and energy you're attracting to your field, which is why people seek out bliss and things that create bliss and activities and friends and the bar and music. It adds to our life force and extends our life the more bliss we have. Ways to cultivate this: breathe deeply, holding in like 13 seconds more or less, and cultivating it like you're creating a star in your heart and loving yourself. You can also hug yourself going into it. Self-love is the foundation of all, and even if you're having a really bad time, it will get you out of anything. Strong emotions make strong magic. Emotional wholeness, healing fractures and aspects to our soul and consciousness, and separation is a good way to heal emotional trauma and where it's coming from. A lot of the things we feel are things coming back to us and integrating, or things already inside us coming to wholeness and working in a better flow, and it coming up on the dashboard of the heart like, oh, here, you're ready to face this now, and then you move on to the next in a growing stage. Pure love from different sources. Having these are such a gift, and as you establish more, the more love that comes in your life. Forming them for love for yourself, the foundation of all love. If you don't love yourself, how can others love you? Love from your source, your eminence, the source within all sources that connects everything. Lovers, soul partners, Earth Mother, other planets, stars, galaxies, universes, angels, heaven realms, love dimensions, wisdom holders of love, soul family, and other versions of self are great beings to start with in connecting this orchestra of love energy coming and going. But there is also love with strings attached, and so you want to work in a level of balanced oneness that does not have intention or seek to control, and not work with love with strings attached, and going into purity, oneness, source, empathy, love, connection through them, and not needing to go through the external means. There are different levels for the words love. Greek has like a bunch, but there should honestly be more. There are also rare DNA lineages that have advanced love technology that can amplify things as we go into them, such as like beings that have cultivated that their whole life, had a huge heart activating moment that changes the whole DNA and then pass that down. Even things we've heard in mythos, such as goddesses of love and things. Sometimes people inherit those DNA lineages. You can also look into the percentage of love you have for yourself and are permeating in love in your cellular being. When you're first born, it should be 100%. And if there's no traumas, and at birth there usually is, it will continue. But usually the traumas keep us from emanating that from our source of love, of coming into creation. So once we heal those traumas, it flows more readily, and increasing that percentage back to 100%. Resolving blocks made with your stolen authority. Barely anything can stop love other than your own authority, and if it gets stolen, then it will usually go into make you, oh yeah, you totally agreed to make this heart block that shuts your heart down for a certain amount of time. Open your heart, resolving drama in the safety feeling, opening up with confident protection and resilience as you train those layers of your reality to where you're ready to open your heart. Hugging yourself, giving those aspects of yourself that don't have love what they need to be whole. Every aspect of the universe externally that you hate, you also hate about yourself. Find those, use those as examples to find the parts of your body that don't have love within. Give them attention and fill them with love. Be a loving star burning bright in your heart, brighter and brighter, wholer and wholer, holy. Vision. Imagine all the people. Imagination. Whole and pure, centered and bright. In this part of quantum jumping, vision is very vital. As you create your ship, navigate through time-space, have a quantum tunneling effect that brings you like a Rosen bridge. If you want to get really scientific with it, rose pattern wave fields are the best for packing and unpacking energy data in making these tunnels. And your goal is to create a kind of warp drive effect into getting you there, into that point in time, that moment, that manifestation that you're wanting to jump to for yourself or the timeline. Also goes into empowering vision, doing vision quests, training it. It's literally a muscle. Without the training, the imagination, it gets weak and less HD, less bright. There's also wounds that will happen, like fear, and as we really face that fear, it will get more bright. Vision quests of you jumping over to timeline desired, and you playing out the various timelines aloud without expectation. Allowing visions and oracle predictive models of hints on how it will play out and the best actions and course for you to take as your unseen side of your like higher self handles the manifesting in the background for you. And the slides go into pineal gland, that secret organ, the eye of Horus and eye of Ra go into, and the part of the brain. All these symbolisms with the pine cone and the statues, the ability to project from your third eye as if it's like a projector in your mind, daydreaming concept, and creating and programming that. A lot of people have calcified pineal glands because of toxins in the environment like fluoride in the water and a lot of aluminum and lead and a lot of things that like will try to go to the blood-brain barrier as we eat those toxic things. After you're done with getting good with vision, go into dream technology and daydreaming things into being, imagination, envision and feel into the truth of what your reality dream as it is, and examine with emotional translation. Your empath ability combined with dream. Compare and contrast the dream of the truth as it is and the daydream of what you imagine is possible. The best version, purified, whole, peaceful, and love. Fade out the old dream, the nightmare. Reclaim energy from that. De-empower that from existing and bring that empowerment back to the daydream. Empower that. Start, like once you've realized what the problem is, you no longer have to focus on it because you've gained the wisdom of it, the dark rabbit hole, the dark truth. Now fade it out of existence. Do not give it power and bring in the daydream with greater light and HDness. Brighter and brighter, empowering and supportfulness, and to where you feel it empathically as it comes true, to releasing until you release all doubt that the nightmare has faded in the background. Depending on what you're doing, it depends how much time and effort you put into this and how much blocks, literal doubt is a literal block you feel in your heart 360 degrees. And that bilocation of the vision, one fading out, one fading in, is this scenario. And there's a little description on how to lucid dream for people in It's mostly going into, you have to be extremely still, and you're gonna get impulses to itch when going to sleep. Do not scratch yourself. It's the body asking if you're still awake, and if you don't respond, it will start going to sleep paralysis. And if you're still in waking state while it goes into sleep paralysis, you can more easily go out of body and even go into lucid dreaming if you're in that deep state of delta. This goes into some advanced stuff, so I'm not expecting many people to do this. There's not many examples of people that are activated into temporal warping, but there are many scales of this ability, so I'm not just talking about the full-on time travel. Consciousness time travel example, you don't have to leave where you are, but your consciousness can travel back and forth and through time, and that goes into retro causality, retro psychokinesis. You're able to affect the outcome of an experiment that's put in a vault, and the person forward in time like goes back and tries to influence the outcome of what's in the vault, and it's been done with great success. Using timeline consciousness travel to integrate memory, having to do with time, the Akashic field, revisit, retrieve memory, experience the events. This kind of goes into, if you've ever seen Game of Thrones, the warg ability, and the three-headed raven concept, that's the same thing. The warg goes more into you interacting in a consciousness of animal body though. Time, energy, and the time body in accumulation, timeline transmutation, more abilities into that, and making it so that somebody's timeline, if it's being incurred on, like if you were to see somebody that doesn't like somebody and then putting a bunch of vile energy at them carrying that empathic data and it affecting them, especially if it's a lasting wound. Those wounds are in the timeline. That's part of releasing timeline incursions until it's freed up and all the wounds are gone. There's also a bunch of mystery schools into time abilities that I recommend if you go into. This is a very sought after ability. That's one of the abilities that are most stolen because the things dark can abuse with it. So it can really screw up the timeline, which is why it takes a lot to earn them. There's a school of reversal that goes into how to reverse events. I've even seen practitioners and healers go to the level in this school to where they can reverse blindness. The process they describe is taking somebody's timeline of a person's eye, going back to the original wound, replacing the timeline that exists with a timeline of preferred outcome where they are no longer blind, and it fractally changing the structure of the eye. Very intriguing. There's a practitioner in Israel that's national treasure that is one of the users of this. There's also no time fields, which you can create a field around you of separation from other points of time that can make it so that your programs, initiations, interactions with magic and programs function at greater speeds or slower speeds, whatever is needed, like temporal dilations. Time vision, going into that, like seeing what's going on in the timeline. Going into warp speed has an ability where you increase how fast it takes to do an outcome, like magic. It's time healing, timeline repair, timeline incursion prevention, tracking things through time, temporal dilations, temporal compressions, repairing paradoxes, time tree branches of the multiverse, feeling into being oneness with that, being time itself, all time, no time, perfect timing and momentary being, and getting out of the future, which brings us anxiety, getting out of the past, which brings us depressing energy, and being in the moment where all time naturally exists, because it's kind of an illusion and it's based on the rotation movement of celestial bodies. Oh, let's meet up next time the moon's distance in the sky or whatever, and a social agreement. But it does have an occurrence in a natural foundation of flow of how reality and events happen, and is alterable to perspective and relativity, flowing into empowerment, balancing and maintaining of time, fabric, and all around it. There's soft disclosure into these in shows like the Adjustment Bureau, Time Cops, many shows that go into like, oh, beings that have gained this awareness technology and are wanting to protect the timeline, whether it be through psionic abilities or physical. If you wanted to go down the rabbit hole of this and how it exists in reality, I put a little image there of an ode to Andrew Bashago. If you want to look up his research into the military projects of Project Pegasus, Project Looking Glass, which goes into a technology that taps into the residual frequency of the past and the potential frequency in the field that holds of all potentials of the future. The device that taps into that, they eventually made how to bring that onto a screen. They started with big scale ones. They tried to reverse engineer the pineal gland in a big technology that kind of looks like this rotating sphere that's in the movie Contact. That has gone into bigger projects such as what Nikola Tesla did in Project Philadelphia, where he went into teleportation, which is also soft disclosed in the movie Prestige, and the military going into using that and compartmentalizing that into secret projects and not sharing it with the public. Reality warpers in many ways for that. And also scrying the old magicians of the past. The Magi would use like crystal balls and scrying bowls and other things to make a window of reflection that they could see into and program to give them data of the future or the past. Spatial warping. So the reality rules for the planet are interesting. They have changed throughout history. It was way easier to do this type of thing anciently, and then after the wounds of Earth, she shut down a lot of the bigger abilities from manifesting for a lot of people unless they're able to hold up the responsibility of it, which goes into individual graduation and them being able to have that in focus and be able to do it with enough effort. The reality rules will change. There's a thing around our culture where we're being forced to face our shadow and learn how to take our power back and freedom from things that we've given it away to throughout time, and release the parasite that's holding us back and trying to steal our abilities as a up-and-coming psionic potential species. So when humanity awakens to take off their spiritual and physical slavery limits, huge abilities will manifest faster in existence as these interesting children are born into this new world at a time when less things are able to constantly try to steal things from us. The healing of Earth kind of goes into this and her out of this wounded state, and again, like, brings the magic back. Magnetism in this ability feels like you're embracing, like lovers, your current of space and the space you wish to jump to in the quantum jump, and you becoming one with that, like as two lovers joining, and the removal of all doubt and limitation that show that's not. You can use action, ceremony, your voice, mind, the force, and unity with all forces in space to like bring more potential to this. Eventually, space reality warping will lead to things like teleportation, portals, dimensional travel, psychokinetic translocation, soft disclosed in like things like the movie Jumper or in the Magicians, Travelers. Yes, we actually do have this DNA inheriting to us. We have a super technology that we've inherited. We've inherited something that records the library of every species on the planet and re-updates with what's on the planet. There's the energy that your DNA holds from what's on the planet and what your DNA lineage actually contains in physical breeding, which is a little bit more important and solidified, but you can still download also other genetic information from your spirit from other lives and change your DNA in the body with more abilities that you had from other lifetimes the DNA doesn't have. If you don't have this particularly, it's mostly shut down. We're like inherited a Ferrari, but it's like got all these problems and engine failure and broken windows and slashed tires, so we got to repair it, otherwise it's a paperweight. And some rare DNA technology also goes into this space control. It holds teleportation blueprints. What is real and what is not real. We only see 0.00005% of all energy that's in any given space. Imagine what it'd be like if we could see all of it, or even more of it turned up. There are states of being that have happened to people where they are able to see more. What is real? It's like having objective, independent existence, authentic, true, genuine, in the right is the definition usually applied. I found that real energy is usually made up of source energy, time, space, life, light, dark, will, knowing, truth, and foundation, base energy. And base reality is a big part of that. Elon Musk went into the concept that it is a higher likelihood that this is not base reality and that we're in some type of light holographic simulation. I go into the idea that even though this sounds like computery and stuff, the hologram of our bodies as it is a super advanced holographic quantum computer, and same thing with the planet. It doesn't have to be seen as like, oh, we're in a giant computer, a more advanced thing than that. And the same thing with the layers of what is real. It usually goes along with what the territory you're in. So this Earth hologram is less real than the solar hologram that contains within it, in like layers of realities within, holding space. And then the galaxy hologram within that contains that, and so on universally. And each of those has a form of real energy and unreal energy, and that goes into what continues and exists beyond what's in the unseen to the seen. We can earn real energy, realness, being our real self, being true to ourselves, deep within, going. You can also get more into your inner Neo and attempt to program into your base reality programming of, it's kind of like if you were to imagine the version of you dreaming you that came before, and as if you're the dreaming body for that base self, and you bring into where you're more in lucidity. And what is lucidity? Seeing the truth, bringing things and making things that you want in the dream, bringing lucidity to this dream by seeing it as a dream, just with deeper rules, and it's more difficult, and many other forms of chess games that are going on that need to be. There is no spoon. The spoon is you. You are everything, such as with the spoon boy reference in the Matrix and the spoon bending concept. You cannot simply just bend the spoon. It's impossible. You must simply see the truth. There is no spoon. What is real? How do you define real? If you're talking about what you can feel, what you can smell, what you can taste, what you can see, then real is simply electrical signals interpreted by the brain. And like going more into these images are the holograms of the multiverse, the galaxy, the Earth, the universe, the macro clusters, and how it kind of goes up and down, as above, so below, micro, macro. The brain cells, the neurons, look pretty much exactly the same as the tendrils of energy that flow throughout the universe. And it goes up and down similarly in the space between atoms. And yeah, it goes into reference for quantum computers and the potential of what they will create in new layers of realities and spaces of less real, but having a degree of what is real in definition. Being at the center of everything. And when I say this, I don't mean in the egocentric concepts of this. You want to be in your absolute center of your heart, of the center of infinity, within all, as if you're feeling into being everything. Absolute center oneness with everything, everyone merged back in time, one within all. Make a super unity remedy solution to anything quick. As an example, is what this is good for. Seeing everything as you, it does matter. Everything matters. There's a reason for all these things. Negative emotions, attachment, and knowing what's real, all these have reasons, and if you find out what, it makes things much easier, and suffering can just transform. What is real, what is not real? Staying balanced on your quest to find truth is how you go through this. Being one with source, and when I say this, this is the nugget of truth below all beliefs, going into like why anyone would value wanting to be egocentric or feel like they're the center of the universe. releasing the ego from that, seeing yourself as one. It's not nihilism and it's not solipsism, more expanded than that. And it doesn't allow things to like get that into a state of, oh, I must think of everything else as my mind, and so those things external to me are not important. No, they are, and they're not just you. It's like ultimately in energy they all go back to the same source, but there's a lot of free will in between. They all branched off and wanted to be their own player in the multiplayer game that we're in. So allowing their free will and empathizing, seeing them as you so that you would not do them harm, which goes into how people that have their emotional body shut down and are able to abuse others are in a constant state of forgetting that they are everything. Everyone gets a unity trade, purity healing, if they wish to be a part of the free will unity in their rules and boundaries to that in their awareness bubble. Becoming one with everything. Become one with Earth, become one with the sun, galaxy, universe, multiverse, and beyond if necessary, depending on what you're doing, to unite all involved and bring all opposition, force to peace, to jump the timeline in an harmonious flow that's agreed upon. Be everyone, be all, in love and its continued growth and expansion. Unity consciousness. And like I said before, unity is what true power is. I am all, I am everyone. Everyone is an interesting word if you were to think into what it is to be everyone. Agreement to maintain timeline factors of truth. All collectives united, unite in true power, release separation consciousness, lessons and events all the beings want to have agreed upon in unity. Unity consciousness with all in unconditional love, with balance, maintaining great peace, love, healing, detachment from beings in separation consciousness that forgot they are everyone, and degree of internal drama, war, control, darkness, shadow, suffering, overwhelm, and negative programs until they resolve themselves and don't step past your boundaries. That's the thing you're separating from. Source energy. Everyone is all one. Source connection in your heart, 0 points. Internal power versus external power. This is the real internal power, but it's also external. But you know, source is everything. Connection to source stream, source of all energy and consciousness, whatever you believe it is. There are many that will have different faces on it, and within that free will, it allows all those perspectives and in harmony for their expanse and growth that they choose. It feels like love, oneness, wholeness, being, knowing, truth, very powerful and also peaceful. Merging with source, let go of all that is not you. Let go to fit through the eye of the needle, like we said before, in the heart. Detach of all earthly attachments and suffering. Surrender all limitations and things that are not your pure self, keeping you from being everything. This is also demonstrated with engagement in source energy with beings on the divinity path. The words ascension or great work, Christ consciousness, the Devi, the divine, the demigods, deities and beings attempting in like lower G God form to be on this path, as an example. Not all that say they are these and gods are, though, so be careful. Sources have sources. Interesting concept, I know, but if you were thinking of the source that came into existence and it'd be under its goals of to know thyself and consciousness expansing and being all perspectives, it's also dealing with some interesting things it's inherited in shadow that's resolving, and abandonment issues from the source that created it that it's seeking to find, and kind of going back in this interesting space of what is real beyond words, really. Source within all sources is deep within you. So if you want to unify and resolve and bring to peace things, sit into that. Feel like you're the center of this big explosion and all these branches, including the branch that becomes you, the branch that is the thing that's in argument or competition or attacking you or whatever, and feel into what it takes to bring those branches to peace, into awareness and remedy to where they are no longer in drama. Going back to your origin and source is how you find peace. This has been stated by many masters of the past. It's shown in the many paintings of the light within the heart, such as with Christ consciousness, Yahshua Emmanuel, going into the I am and the I am presence. And here's going into something interesting, something that's possibly even older than Source itself. Truth. Part of the equation for quantum jumping, bringing truth in, feeling it become true. Feeling what it takes to push it to unity, coming true. Shining light of truth from your heart into focus to learn truth. I can't tell you what truth is. I can barely tell you beyond what is in this presentation. You have to seek it out yourself and know it. Truth doesn't always feel good. It will not always resonate with you. Truth can hurt. It can break through the walls of lies and dogmas that we're born into, and it can feel uncomfortable, especially when we've held such strong beliefs before. But these are necessary to face because they are some of the greatest growths we can have in the life. Emotions can sense truth, but they're not often good at it, especially with emotional data that we're holding on to from the past, coming in and changing the now. And this can be used against us to control us in a way and navigate how we react to things. And if we're completely at the whim of our emotions, we have chaos happening around us. And this is a form of control that I call emotional mind control. Emotion sensing into what is truth the best they can. If people are in emotional mind control, this keeps people ignorant because they have a hard time maintaining high frequencies of love against challenge and discomfort from energy of the ego and wounds that we hold and the ego boundaries that are programmed to maintain our bubble of reality, and anything that threatens that, it gets very uncomfortable. And only when we're willing to transmute that and behold, to allow ourselves to see past what our ego and our emotions are telling us, can we see beyond these veils of emotional mind control to these dark truths and use them to bring us more into light. Belief that focusing on dark makes more of it. This has been permeated through the New Age community, and it's got some truths because in the law of attraction concept, what you think of and feel attracts more of it. People believe if you focus on darkness, it makes more of it. This is only true if you choose to remain in the victim state of powerlessness, to not be able to transmute the darkness that already exists within you, because what you're going to be feeling isn't necessarily the external thing and true beliefs and concepts coming to you. It's going to be something you already hold. And when we transmute that darkness we already hold, that's being exposed by the external trigger. We release anything's external darkness's ability, and if it is able to control that, brings people to ignorance, to feel they need to bury that darkness deep down inside in hopes that it goes away, always in the pursuit of happiness and never looking at the darkness, which is necessary. If you want to live in a world without suffering, without psychopaths, without rapists, and people doing egregious acts, you have to face those dark truths and find solutions for them. Stress causes great evolution. Be okay with getting out of your comfort zone if you want to grow fast. Feel into reality in neutral. You want truth. Do energetically in background what it takes with your higher self and your source and the unity collective to manifest desired outcomes as true. If in alignment with everyone, feel into truth in neutral state of being. What you want. Feel into reality in a neutral state of being, not wanting something as an outcome, you wanting truth. Doing energetically in the background what it takes to have it become true, and not just you believing it. You uniting with your higher self, source, and the unity collectiveness of the hologram to manifest that desired outcome as truth. And if they're in alignment with everyone, it will work. If not, then you need to feel into that closely and what it is, and then bring that to unity. Or if it has no actual authoritative vote that's in realness, then you can revoke it. Release all doubt. This doubt is an actual blockage. It shows what's holding it back from becoming true. Full completion of full effortless confidence and love while facing and feeling into the reality of the subject in present. Root, grounding, and anchoring in the timeline. Once you've had the setup for all the other stuff, bringing it in and lock it in. Root consciousness, part of our being that like sets up for the rest of our accumulation of wisdom. The root chakra, the legs, those chakras, meridians, the earth, people call it the earth star, whatever you want to call it. It's like a processor the earth gives us. Our connection to the earth's heart, root and grounding tech goes into this. Anchoring in a strong foundation connection of this shift in the earth, making it real here now, adding real energy to it. Unity with everything to bring anchor to great strength. Speak to the trees. They have the wisdom. They do have heart telepathy as well, so you can feel into them and connect to their hearts. Practice listening to them and as well speaking through your heart to them. Eventually you will hear something if you're out there long enough. This also goes into what I have in the background with the world trees, the tree of Yggdrasil and tree of life, light, death, good and evil, different realms, ways to see things, and the metaphors of tree and the tree of DNA that we have. There are also the concept of those big giant trees in Avatar and the red forest trees. There have been even bigger trees in the past when the oxygen on the planet was much more flourishing. I am not going to say if they exist on this realm. They totally exist on other realms though, still, and they're quite good at manifesting protection to keep them going, and they can appear to you in dreams and teach you well. Ask for your tree teacher to come to you, able to teach you of the technology you hold within to ground your whole reality. And then, once you've anchored all this in, if you have the ability to check the records in what is real in the Akashic, to compare and contrast what has been manifest with what you actually want and staying neutral, and looking at it from many different angles and ways to feel into energy so that you have the ability to confirm what you did actually made a difference and is manifested as real, not just for your bubble of reality, but is agreed to in the quilt blanket of multiplayer hologram of the multiplayer game of this reality. Daydream the information true of what is manifest and resolve any contesting realities. Like in the future, if there are things that want to come back in time and like, oh, I don't want that to happen, they try to uncreate it, concepts. You're in the Akasha, you're able to see back and forward in time and be able to protect that to make it stronger and solid in time from any future attempts. Let us unite to help the world and its people to heal. Thank you so much for coming. Here are my contacts if you wish to reach me. I'm at psionicleague.com. I'm also at quantumbusinessman.com, magicmiraclemassage.massagetherapy.com, and my YouTube is Psionic League. I have many different plans for the future. Explore, grow, make books, videos, make a school eventually with people, and expand into this. My vision for the future is a paradise in unity and wholeness and peace, with huge growth and everyone working together, doing what they love and bringing their talents to the world. And like if the question gone into, what would you do if money was no object? What do you love? Follow that passion. I also like to invest in projects to teach people psionic abilities to help this world in solving their problems they face and adding to life to enrich it. I love you all very much. Thank you for being with us. And here's a video about being alive. Thank you all for coming.
Feeling like a hero, but I can't fly. No know you never crash if you don't try. Took it to the edge, now I know I'm never gonna live if you're too scared to die. Gonna disconnect from the hard wire. Time to raise a flag for the ceasefire. Staring down the hole inside me, looking in the mirror, making peace with the enemy. Make it on a wish if you want to. Open up my heart like a shotgun, blinded by the light of a new sun. Get up, get up, get out, get done. For the first time I feel like someone, breaking down the walls in my own mind, keeping my faith for the bad times. Get up, stand like a champion. Take it to the world, gonna sing it like an anthem. Don't tell me how it feels, I'll find it on my own. Never gonna live if you're too scared to die. I'm so alive, I'm so alive, I'm so alive. You can make it on a wish if you want to. You can make it on a wish if you want to. I'm so alive, I'm so alive, I'm so alive. You can make it on a wish if you want to. You can make it on a wish if you want to.
And welcome back, everybody. Sorry about that little break there. We had a couple of technical difficulties in the background. Sean, what an amazing and interesting presentation you did there. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah, great job. Yeah, you're muted too, by the way. Yeah, excellent job.
Appreciate that. Yeah.
It's always good to have so many different perspectives and such a calming voice. I never could talk that calmly.
No,
So true.
Activating on a whole nother level. So, appreciate all the stuff you're holding up for everyone. Gosh.
But yeah, I appreciate it, man. We're doing our best over here. We really, really are. We got a question for Preliminal. And I got to say, I like this question. You covered a lot of stuff in a little amount of time comparatively. How does everything you covered really apply to everyday life?
Well, psionically, you can overlay every action you do. It's just like an amplification of the knowingness of what it is and the action, what it can accomplish. Like working out, you can put a bunch of your energy towards building your strength or even manifesting or making yourself feel better or anything that your belief system allows you to expand into. So quantum jumping gets them to the timeline they want to perceive, and they can even, it's the Mandela effect itself in a macro scale and user base that even applies to big things.
Okay. Moneybags asks, why has the sabotage of Black Tom Island made it into our awareness at this time? Nobody I have asked has ever heard of it, he says.
Black Tom Island. Where is that at?
Black Tom Island is the one that was the reason the Statue of Liberty's closed down.
The reason, okay, I haven't like gone into this, so I haven't read it into it before. Can you let me know about like what's going on?
And I appreciate your honesty. Appreciate your honesty there. So
I don't know.
According to history now, and a lot of us in the community don't remember, Black Tom Island is where Germans invaded an American island and blew up a weapons depot, if I'm not mistaken. And this explosion was so big that it damaged the Statue of Liberty. And actually, this is the reason that nobody can go up into the torch, I believe it is now. So why would that have come into our awareness? Clearly, you've not even heard of it. Like Moneybag says, most everyone he's asked has never heard of it.
I could read into that for you if that's what you're asking.
Yes.
So like before I get into that, like I have to so to activate my state of consciousness, because whatever, I'll go into like a little bit of breath work and stuff if you want to go into it. I also feel, I don't know about you, but the huge elephant in the room, I don't know if you guys feel that on your heart.
Well, if you want to bring some up, go ahead, bud. The floor is yours.
No, I mean, like empathically, there's a lot going on. It kind of felt like giving birth to me, but like energetically. And then I had to like do a whole bunch of like stretching and yoga, like all today. It's like pretty interesting. Did that happen was it taxing on your guys' presentations?
I wouldn't say it was really taxing for me. I've never really given a presentation like that before. Surprisingly enough, of all the stuff I've done, I've never given a conference presentation. So it was more taxing to the point of, am I going to mess this up? Is this going to be accepted? Will people like this? Will people just trash what I'm saying? And it was really nerve-wracking, I got to say.
I agree. Yeah. So I'm sure audience would appreciate a like guided going into of how to release the blocks on the psychic ability, because there's a literal ceiling that of eyes all around that tries to entangle with what's going on here, because you guys are changing the future. So the goal into it is turn on your love in your heart and feel into the wall that has been put up in a attempt to block the power that's going on in each individual, to putting in doubt, like, oh no, you can't do this, all that kind of stuff. Feel into the wall as a fractal of yourself, but not going into the external, but the internal aspect already in yourself. And feel into that, give that love, because it's reflecting a lot of projections onto us of what we are, what will become, how we're affecting things. Everyone can do what they want. We don't want to control anyone and their beliefs. It's all about free will and expanding into that, because each one of us in our own perspective is doing a grand thing for the entire world, and never want to stop you in your journey and what you want to do. And if we can all come together and talk and maintain this like connectivity that allows for our free will and our individuality and our ability to detach from the drama of others and the dirty energy as we go within, because you can go into unity consciousness and detach from everything at the same time, and into unity consciousness, your source, connecting back to that big tree, going back infinite, bringing love, peace, unity to the tree branches that have forgotten that they are you, that we're all working to find out what's truth. And it's okay. It's okay if everyone's wrong. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, let me ask you, but before we appreciate that, Sean. Let me ask you before we get too far off here. Is the question kind of goes with what you've been saying so far? Do you think the Schumann resonance is positive or negative on affecting our DNA?
Oh, that's a great question. The Schumann resonance is a concept of energy frequency that its sources are being up to debate, including lightning fields that are constantly going around in the Pacific and also the Atlantic, and that also the Earth itself.
It's like 93 a second or something, I think, isn't it? So isn't it like 93 lightning strikes per second around the world? Or something like that. It's like ridiculous.
On average, it is, yeah.
Right,
on average, like 90 to 100 some odd, yeah.
Yep. That's crazy. Just so to put it in perspective.
So understanding what the Schumann is, how does it affect the DNA?
Oh, it's massively evolving everything. It's an energetic surge, just like when you're charging up, the Earth doing it itself. Being able to maintain more lightning strikes around the planet all at once at any given time is it being able to hold up a greater capacity. Same thing that fractally goes down to our cellular makeup and everything within the field. It's pretty amazing, especially if you sync up with it, and especially if you feel into that charge that's emitting throughout the planet and like the causations of it. If there's the chess game of you wanting to spur more to happen, once you know it's very evolving, it's better that there are happening more of this. Then you can find the places of power on the planet that go into, if this was more energetic in its output, there would be more charge built up.
Places of power, you mean like Sedona, for instance? Would that be like a place of power you're referencing?
Yeah, for a lot of things. I don't know specifically for the Schumann resonance there, because a lot of the places of power, as they communicate to me, they allow me to know ones that I've earned, and I earn more. As for an instant, the ones that I'm allowed to share that are a Schumann resonance amplifier that you can go to energetically, there's a mountain in the center of Iceland that is a really good one, as well as in Spain, I think the Canary Islands.
Let me steer this back around here, if I may. So all this information, the timeline jumping, the quantum jumping, this kind of got really in depth and really, really, really information packed and filled. How would this relate to Mandela effect as far as like waking up tomorrow and I don't know, I have a mobile Nokia phone opposed to a Samsung? How would that like affect changing reality itself? Would that be quantum jumping? Like, how would that really?
So if you're going into your quantum jumping abilities more, which I recommend people at their pace, because nobody's asking anyone to do anything that they're afraid of. And it even is a literal definition of how to get out of fear emotionally. Even if you like, these are all a culmination of what I've tuned into, that I've recorded from blueprints of many people that have accumulated and found a jumping ability in some way, and may have called it different things, and their experience on that, and pieced it all together in a way that can really get anyone there. To get out of a negative reality where if you've ever felt you've gone down too many, like, my path is not to be afraid to go down dark rabbit holes, because they're truth too. But I have definitely been in a time where I thought everything was being destroyed, that my reality path is being manipulated, and things are happening negative around me, and had to put effort into getting out of that. So I like balancing light and dark rabbit holes as you go down. Otherwise, you get more into one or the either. And same thing with the light, because they'll have the new age path that can have so many different things, and it's not like all true, because everyone wants something to be true, and it's not about that. It's about finding that center point of truth that is every perspective working together to put all the pieces together and not hate on each other, because that's the division points, and those can be scrutinized with great value to see that this was put as some Machiavellianism divide and conquer strategy that get everyone fighting each other and believing what they believe. And it's good to believe something new and your own path and choose with 100% free will. No one wants to take that away from you. Just stop fighting other people. That is the game that's going on. It's how we win. If you feel like you're trapped here and you can't escape, challenge the cage. You can escape. If you want to get out, the whole game's mechanism of keeping it as it is everyone eventually coming to unity and saying we don't need the cage anymore, and we want to create a new paradigm.
And in today's day and age, I tell you, we need coming together in unity more than we need anything in this world. It seems like they're trying to rip each other apart limb for limb sometimes. What is happening? So this really kind of goes back into your whole thing. What is happening during the instant download that people seem to receive? So, you know, when you're telling somebody Mandela about, have you ever had this where you're telling somebody about a Mandela effect, right? You talk to people about Mandela effects, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you ever had this where you're talking to people about it, and you say, "Hey, man, you ever heard of Jiffy peanut butter?" And then all of a sudden they get this download, and they will tell you the entire Wikipedia page for Jiffy, or Jif as it is. What is happening in these download moments?
Well, that's a really cool question. So describing the Mandela effect community and perceiver effect is not easy, so I'll do the best I can. And this is my perception, so I don't want to impose my beliefs on anyone. But if I were to answer this question to the best of my ability, and maybe had some psychic abilities or consciousness of whatever, my answer would maybe be something like, people that are observing this are of great value and awareness, and are needed for a multitude of tasks. Everyone here right now is needed. If any one person was taking out at any given time that they weren't supposed to, there would be disarray. And so there's a management process to that in bringing the people the way they need to be on the timeline, anchoring, resolving everything that they got going on, including an interaction with the editing perspective of time, which goes into a garden creation of conceptualized, oh, what if this person makes all these types of choice points, and then seeing where it goes and advances. And those in that conceptualized space of being able to grow and flourish in like teaching skills, wisdom, schools. What would happen if I turned right, or if I never died, or all these things. And then based on their value, their increase of their flourishing as a flower to cultivation, where it could then go into either a merging state with the timeline that we're on in maintenance, the purposeful, goal-oriented graduation of all individuals in a quilt of perception of light.
So let me stop you right there.
To describe very fast.
So we're getting off a little bit on the deep side here. I want to bring it back a little bit surface level. So I'm talking to you, or I'm talking to my buddy, and he gets the download. Why did he get that download?
It can be a variety of different ways that it started, but it would be who's meant to. It would be that he's working with beings or guides or his higher self or source itself, or a downloading mechanism of causation that goes into, oh, this person needs to get inspired in this orientation to make this timeline work. Or it could be their plan all along. If the game player came in through the amnesia barrier with that already as a plan, or if it's a new plan, that would be going into that. If the person got the download, they're like, oh, I'm remembering the other timeline. Oh man, why would somebody want, why would the timeline want people to remember? It wakes them up more, makes them pay attention. It causes, it's like a freeing of a mental cage. It's like a very significant moment all at once. And it's like their brain turns on more light, more fully, and they're able to access something with great need to, because of a challenge, and challenges and stress in all these different ways. And this is a new way to challenge evolution that you guys have found.
So do you think that this creates two different groups of people then? Those that get the download and accept it, and those that get the download and do not? Do you think we all get the same, quote, download? Sorry, I had to throw that one in there for myself, guys.
That's a expansive question too. With the many different.
Well, let me start a really simple question, because I kind of threw three at you there at once. Do you think everyone gets this? Yes or no? Right.
I gotta look at the information real quick.
So, do you think everyone gets the download? That's just yes or no on that.
That's a cool way to put that. I like how you ask questions. So our environmental awareness is always sending and receiving data. And whether we're aware of it or not, we're downloading, we're evolving, we're resolving things. Just being here second by second, you're doing loads of things. You're like an anchor into like this higher going around version of you, maintaining or doing what you're good at, while you seek to bring more of your true self in and live that through this advanced DNA technology that that makes everything that we are even greater. It's just kind of broken down, and we got to repair it. And then go into, I'm remembering other versions of myself or things going into that, and I'm able to cultivate all these awarenesses, ideas.
So you think that we all get the download then? So you think we all take the download at some point or another? Now, that said, do you think there are people...
the right one that gets that full into their awareness, because like you're trying to get past the super consciousness, the subconscious triggers, and that sweet spot that you guys found, that just the right Mandela effect that makes them question all the reality, that like gets deep to the conscious, and that makes a huge bridge that is calling out for truth to them find deeper.
So it sounds like you're saying that it's not the download, it's a download. Is that more where everybody's downloading like different streams?
The peak download.
Right. So you want the optimal download. So there is choices even within the download. Because I've noticed the whole parallel memory thing happen too. So I've gotten the download. I just have retained the original timeline as well. And many times I don't know which one came first. Yeah.
Does it feel like you're older and you have more, you've opened up the gate of information and processing from that other there's a bunch of different ways of doing it. I'm not trying to say it's just this, but
Right.
sometimes it's like increasing your hard drive capacity to process in the supercomputer your data. And there's a lot that just switches with that. Those moments, that the in the zone moments are a good example of that. But you found a key that unlocks a different perception aspect of it.
That's cool. Yeah, Moneybags was actually asking another question, just to get your opinion on it. What message is being sent to the Christian community with all the Bible changes that we've seen? What do you think that? What do you think it's saying?
Can you repeat the beginning of that question real quick?
Yeah, I will. What message is being sent to the Christian community with all of the Bible, Christian Mandela effect community, with all the Bible changes that have been put into the Bible? What kind of message is being given to them?
Okay, again, so this is my, I'll reiterate because I'm not trying to say my truth is the truth. So take it as you will. And because I know this is a subject that I'll be very triggered for a lot. So take what you will and take out what you don't want, all that. So Bible has so much going on. It's an amazing multidimensional codex of interaction that has a large amount of imprinted truth in it. And then a war going on in the entire book over what is passing it down, including what's the Vatican's trying to do with it, and them taking out many of the previous volumes in it, and then slow editing changes that have happened throughout it, which it has been affected through time, both by the positive and negative. The negative that's the war. They're trying to war over what's in the maintaining of the timeline that affects people awakening, because it has such a deep impact on so many people. So I'd empower people that are Christian to go deeper into the truth in Christianity. There are more esoteric, going back deeper, not just scratching the surface aspects of Christianity that decode the Bible in its many aspects, and that has many different layers of perception. It can be used as an incredible enfreement tool, but also the dark, which their chess move is to box people in, which is what the definition of a religion, to tie back, hold, bind. It's spirituality. It needs to be expanded in free will of the individual and not bully someone into a belief. Otherwise, it's probably got something to hide, because it's passing down a cycle of trauma to unwittingly received by the other person. It's got a lot of positive stuff in it. I recommend mostly like writing down in the war of your awareness of the reality, what is absolutely the most likely to be true statements of authors in the Bible, such as Jesus, and going through the apostles, and then the more questionable apostles, and then the other introductions of how things have been introduced in the dark chess move, which is, I recommend people wanting to take back the Bible for peace and unity consciousness and Christ consciousness collective of going back to their source, their peace through their heart. And
so let's not get too far off the original question here. So let me ask you, I'm going to bring it down really, 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 really stupid, simple. I apologize. What was your Mandela effect? What made you see Mandela effect was real? What was yours?
My childhood house changing entirely, not like the house itself, but like the field, the meadow not existing, there being weird places around it, and it was a weird feeling going back to that. But a bunch of the ones you guys experienced, like the Bernstein Bears, I remember that. I remember fighting for it. I'd be like, "This is bullshit. What the fuck?"
Can we get some censorship here, please?
Oh.
I cannot allow that, sir. I do apologize. I cannot allow that in my chat. I cannot allow that on my screen. I am so sorry. Please try to watch our language here.
Sorry,
all right,
Amanda.
I completely understand, but we got to be careful. This is a kid-friendly situation. So, my apologies, chat and everybody watching. How long have you been studying the Mandela effect?
When I was waking up to going through science, I also explained this in the presentation that I will release later. That's 2 hours. With all these effects happening to me, weird spatial and spiritual reality shifts going on, and empathic intense moments that I don't really want to go into right now, but
how many years have you been looking into it? Like, how long have you been studying just the Mandela effect?
Mostly after I met Chris Sinatra, the quantum businessman. But because he's very passionate about it, and it brought me more into the focus of it, because I had like a million focuses going on. But when it started first affect me in my awakening journey, I had to dig into this, and I found out about, oh yeah, multiverse theory. Oh yeah, this is proving on a deep, big level the quanta effect of. So like I was going through it was about the same time quantum mechanics. Is there someone in the chat?
I think we need to kick somebody.
It's been taken care of.
Interesting. Anyway, so well, making fun where it can. Okay, so yeah, and I've had to like detach my room from things incurring like in pain in my body, like intense teeth pain and like weird, like all around muscles, like flaring up pain. Like it's kind of like indescribable. And so to where that forced me to be like, oh, this is a make or break moment. I might die. And then attempt to, the Schrodinger's cat came in my mind. So like, oh, what if you can detach everything that is not observable from observed? And then I was able to focus on that for a time, and it worked, and all the pain went away. And I was like, holy shit, thank you. And yeah, so I'm trying to be light about it, but yeah, so that got me into like, oh, you can shift things around and it's not all stable, and then seeing it happen more and more got pretty addicting. It's
and that is the last question for this Q&A, guys. We're going to go ahead and take a 1 hour break. Do remember, and I must remind everybody, IMEC does not necessarily represent any views of any particular speaker whatsoever. IMEC is only to bring you this information. It's for you to decide whether you like it, believe it, or not. Is it completely up to you? We merely bring the information to you. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a 1 hour break. We will be back here in about 1 hour, 3/4 after the hour, 45 after the hour. We will return. Ladies and gentlemen, I am Jerry Hicks. On behalf of IMEC and everybody involved, we thank you, and we shall be back. Thank you guys very much.